Board of Trustees meeting of Monday, August 5th, 2019. And if I could please ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Please let the roll show that we are all present. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Everyone had a chance to take a look at that?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda. I would like to do a few things here. The Feldman Auto Body Shop has asked to be taken off, so we need to delete that. That is under new business, E. And also, I would like to move the approval for the sheriff's radar and speed detection device to the top of the new business agenda. We have some people here that would like to talk early, so if that's not a problem, I'd like to do that.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Oh,
Hold on, Leslie, you had something, I apologize.
that's
Do you
all
want
right.
to add the 11-mile pathway construction
Well, that's right.
discussion?
So do we want to put that at the end of new business?
Item N.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to announcements and communications. I think we do have a few people that would like to come up and talk. Wait 1 second.
Hi.
We need, we'll bring you up, we'll have you come up to the call,
Oh,
okay?
Yep, hold on one moment.
Yeah, these are more of announcements and communication time. You want to come on up?
Okay, no problem. Okay, so hello everyone.
Are you doing?
Hi, I am Jennifer Redfern, and I am the founder of JR Tours, and I'm the one that's been doing Southline History and Ghost Tours through Southline, if you haven't heard of us on Facebook. And now I am announcing that we have been making plans to do a historical Lyon Township historical tour through the downtown area of Lyon Township in New Hudson. So we are proposing to do this on September the 20th, which is a Friday, from 6 p.m. until around 8 p.m. So, and I do have a map of our route that Tina is loading at this moment in time. It's all good. All right. So this is actually a thing that I would love to do, because my family came to Lyon Township back in the 1950s, and I've always been very close to the history of this township. And we had such great success with the historical and ghost tours of South Lyon that I thought, why not have the township people know about the township's history too, and South Lyon people too? Because no matter what, South Lyon and Lyon Township are connected forever, no matter how it is. We can't live without each other. And so in that case, this would be a way to share all of the history of South Lyon, but then also Lyon Township in this way. Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So with the success of the Lyon Township, South Lyon History and Ghost Tour, we have now been doing it for around a year and a half. We did it all last year from May all the way until September for just tours. And we had last year around 200 people who attended all the way through the year. And then this year we've had another round about like 80 people who have, because we did more tours last year than this year together. But so far, everybody has said very good things about it, and everybody's loved it. So much so that the city has approved me to do it for as long as I want to do it for. Now, of course, with Lyon Township is gonna bring in people from out of town too, because I've had people go on South Lyon's tour from Clio, like literally from up by Clio, all the way from Roseville, Dearborn, all these other places. And how we would market this is that we would announce over Facebook, of course, and we would share around the community with flyers and other things like that. But also, we would put on Eventbrite.com, and that's how we would sell the tickets. With Eventbrite.com, you can also just search Lyon Township and events that are happening, and that would share this event with, of course, the people who are looking for things to do. Now, with this, it will be a 2-hour tour, and as soon as I get the route loaded, we can show you how we were planning on walking around the area. Okay, so how we would do it then is, if you guys can picture the 6-way in the middle of New Hudson. So what we would do is we'd start with permission at the New Hudson United Methodist Church in their parking lot, and we can have that for parking for the tour. And then we would start there, go down to the rail trail, and then we would cross Grand River right there at the rail trail and go down the rail trail where the old where the old depot used to be in the old grain elevator, and I would describe just the Grand Trunk coming through town and how important it was and such to New Hudson's history and just New Hudson's economy and Lyon Township's economy at that time. And then, of course, I would walk them back up and we'd go along where the post office is to Shepo Street. And with Shepo Street, oh, look at that, yay! Yep, so you can kind of see. I sadly cannot take it all the way to the railroad track with this map, but I'm kind of where we cross and then come back, and then we go along to Shepo Street right there, go over by the school. We describe how important the school was and how important that whole area was to the town. Just, it was kind of like an open green. And of course, I'm taking all this research too from what John Bell did, and I'm tying it up to the Lyon Township history book. And of course, for the first 25 people who sign up for this tour, they will get a copy of the Lyon Township history book too. And so that would kind of tie them into the township's history also. And then of course, with that, we'll go to Milford Road, go up Milford Road. We're going to cross Grand River, as it's called back then, Main Street, and then we would cross over Pontiac Trail and then cross over Milford Road. So as you can see, we kind of go in a half circle and go across. So we're just using crosswalks that are completed and everybody's accessible to those crosswalks. And then how we're planning to do it to get to the cemetery, because of course we want to go to the cemetery to teach them of the history in the cemetery, the Revolutionary War soldiers, the Canfields, the Buttons, the people who used to, sell this location. How we're planning on doing this is that there's a pathway that goes up to the side gate, because we did look at the path by the road, but it's just too congested and everything, especially for that many people. So we're planning on going there, do a good square around the cemetery, talk about a couple of families, and then of course come back down, and then come back down towards Milford Road, cross there again, and then go towards the back of the inn and talk about the inn there. So it's just not so much traffic or, trucks or cars and other things like that. Keep for safety, and then come out through the parking lot and then back to the church, staying on the sidewalks. And that is our plan. So hopefully it would just take around 2 hours to 2 hours and a half for the whole entire tour. And that's what we're proposing. And I think it would be a good thing because we have so many new people moving into this area, but also we also have so many older people who've been here forever, like me. I mean, I've been in this township since I was born. And pretty much it's just a good way to know that history, but also for those new people who are moving in who want to stay to get connected to the place that they live in now. And I mean, it'll hopefully be an amazing thing to share.
Well, Jennifer, I think that is wonderful, and I think it's very cool that you're going to do that.
Okay, and there you go. Yep, so September 20th. That's when we're planning to start that.
Got it written down. Be there or be square.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so.
Thank you, Jennifer.
No problem. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Yep. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Did you guys want to come up and say anything? Judge? Hey, no sleeping. No sleeping on my watch.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm David Law, I'm one of the judges in the district court with Judge Travis Reeds. And Rob Bondi was gonna try and be here tonight, but he hasn't made it, so we'll pass along his regards.
I haven't seen him in a while.
You haven't seen him in a while? I'll pass the word back.
Tell him I said
He
that.
said he was gonna try and get up here tonight.
He's still alive, I can vouch for that.
Yeah, yes, trust us. So, anyway, he passes along his regards.
From time to time.
Yes. We just really wanted to come back, try and make it every couple years to come back and keep the lines of communication open, so to speak, between the district court and you all. Things are going pretty well at the court. We're going to touch on that a little bit tonight. We're really honored, I would say honored is the right word, to have Lyon Township as one of the townships and cities that we, as a court jurisdiction, have. Your police department, or sheriff's office, law enforcement does a wonderful job. Fire, obviously, we don't get to touch with them too often, but they do a great job. Your township attorneys, I've known Chuck Snell from I hate to say this, my prosecutor days back 25 years ago. It goes way too quick. So I've known Chuck 25 years, and Steve, they do a tremendous job for you as well. So we really just want to come out and let you know a little bit about what we do, why we do it, how we do it. And if you have any questions afterward, we'd be more than happy to answer those for you, okay? Go ahead.
So, yeah, thanks again. Let me join Judge Law in thanking you for having us, and thanks to everyone for being here. Let me start out by saying we do have a newsletter that we left on the table. If anyone would like one, I passed them out earlier, but please take one just to find out a little bit about what the court's doing. The district court in Novi, we have 3 judges, and we handle about 45 to 50,000 cases a year, which is a pretty high volume district court, I think, for the state of Michigan. We handle civil cases, we handle criminal cases, all the civil cases under $25,000, including landlord-tenant cases, things like that, all go through the district court. We're also the only court that can marry people, so if anyone's interested, we'll be here all night. We handle the civil cases, a variety of things, contract cases, first-party auto cases. Day-to-day, we're doing civil cases. We also handle a large volume of criminal cases. So the district court handles all the misdemeanors in the state, and we also start all the felonies off. And those felonies come to us, and we do what's called a preliminary examination, which is like a mini trial in the district court to see if there's enough evidence to have that felony go up to the circuit court in Pontiac. So that's all part of the 45,000 cases we do. We have about 65 employees at the court. We have a civil division dedicated to just those type of cases, the same for criminal, the same for traffic cases. Believe it or not, traffic citations, civil infraction cases are a big part, like a speeding ticket or a stop sign, running a stop sign. Those are a big part of the 45,000 that we deal with, and those are very quick, obviously. The criminal cases take longer, the felonies take even longer, and some of the civil cases can drag on and on. But that's basically what we're doing at the court day to day.
And I just want to cut in the jurisdiction, when I mentioned that earlier, Lyon Township, that we have South Lyon, obviously Lyon, Novi, Commerce Township, Wolverine Lake, Walled Lake, Wixom, Milford, Highland Township. So we have a pretty large area that we cover as a district court municipality-wise.
Sure, and if you want to see Mr. Snell in action, just come on over on Monday and you can see him in court handling Lyon Township's business. We had him in today, and he does a fine job too for the township. So in any event, that's primarily what we're doing in a big picture-wise. The other thing that I think is important, as a fairly new judge, I think it's important that I recognize that I have good colleagues, great colleagues actually. Not only are they people that I work with every day, but they're my friends.
Yeah, this is where he tries to get me to buy him lunch after.
How's it working?
How's
it working?
Get it, yeah.
No, but
Dinner after,
it's a
I should
pleasure to work with Judge Law and Judge Bobby. They're fine gentlemen, they're intelligent, they're hardworking, and I think the 3 of us together really are keeping the court working very smoothly. Very proud of that, actually. Things are much better perhaps than they were for a while, and I think that the fact that we have a good attitude, we're very collegial, we work together to make sure the court business gets handled efficiently, taking into account people's time. I mean, we know people don't really want to be in court. We're probably the only ones who really want to be there. But they have to have an experience where they get their business handled, they feel they were listened to, they were treated fairly, and whatever the result, as long as it's within that spectrum of being fair, I think most people are leaving satisfied. So. Oh, sure. All right, so now we have some numbers. We can't have a presentation without some current statistics. All right, so Lyon Township is one of our biggest jurisdictions. We had last year actually down to 18 drunk driving cases in Lyon Township, which is a reduction. That's very significant. Obviously, our job is we want the community to be safe. And drunk driving can be a real problem. Having those numbers the way they are is a good sign for the entire community, especially given how the population is going up in Lyon Township dramatically. Let's see, we had 296 to be exact, traffic misdemeanors. So these can be your driving on a suspended license cases, things other than drunk driving. We had, let's see, only 71 non-traffic misdemeanors, things like shoplifting. Unfortunately, you have a store like Walmart, you're just gonna have some shoplifting issues there, the same as Novi has with 12 Oaks Mall and their Walmart store. It's part of just having big retail in your community. But 71 cases is fairly small, given the volume of people that we have coming through Lyon Township on a day-to-day basis. And with the highway so close, it's actually a great number. It means that Lyon Township overall is a very, very safe community. And that's in large part due to the, as Judge Law said, the sheriff's efforts. But I like to think that at the courthouse we're helping with that too, by making sure people get consequences for their behavior and hopefully don't ever come back.
And obviously, it's the community itself, right? So you really don't, from my perspective as a judge, we don't see a lot of trouble coming out of Lyon Township at all. I mean, we have people, there's gonna be some issues. People make a poor choice and the court has to deal with it. And we do it to the best of our ability, but.
Sure. The other thing one thing that we wanted to talk about that's a fairly new advance, and that's something that Judge Law and I are very proud of too, is that the court and school program, where we actually take real court cases to local high schools, had lain dormant for quite some time, a period of many years. And when he and I came on the bench at about the same time, we reinvigorated that program, kind of revamped it, changed it around. It's actually called the Consequences of Decision-Making program now, and we've actually expanded it into middle schools too, because we found that going into the high school is great, and you can get to some of the kids there, but some of them have already made some decisions that have set them in their ways, if you will. But in middle school, they're more malleable and they're more receptive. Having the court cases come into the middle school can be very, very impactful. So we're very proud of that program. We're happy it's back in action. We do about 8 sessions a year between various high schools and middle schools, and we're constantly trying to expand.
And what we try and do is take actual cases, really that would have a connection to a young person. So maybe theft from a mall or a drug case, choices that a young person would have to face as they go on. Bring those types of cases in, actual real cases, pre-trials or sentencings before those students, and have those hearings conducted in front of them. They're actual real cases. The defendants agree to go in front of the students. Obviously, we take that into account, I think, with our
Sure.
sentencing in the end.
Voluntary.
Right, but you know, it's a great service because they don't have to do that. It's not a lot of fun to go in front of 100, 200, 300 students and
Have
be
your
sentenced. Right.
whole history laid out
Your
for everyone to
dirty
see.
laundry aired for everybody.
Yeah.
So we appreciate the people who are willing to do that, and we do. We get a lot of takers, and we think that are willing to go in and have their cases heard that way, and we think it's valuable for the students as well.
We've had a lot of good feedback from parents, teachers, and students about how valuable that is. And we picked the cases, as Judge Law said, some of the people are going to get a jail sentence, and we know that's probably coming. And boy, when the young people see that, it can, their eyes get big, and they're like, ooh, wait a second, maybe there are some,
Yeah,
consequences.
we pick
that-
one or two for sure that are
Yeah.
going, yeah, no doubt. The life of a criminal case, real quick, we start with an arraignment. That's where somebody comes in and they're told the charges that are being brought against them. It'll then head to a pretrial stage where everybody comes back to the courtroom on a later date to determine whether or not there's going to be a trial set or the matter's going to resolve one way or the other. And then obviously there could be a trial, or somebody will admit by pleading guilty what they did. Then there's the sentencing stage. The reason I bring that up is two main questions I get as a judge. One, how do you sentence somebody? How do you determine what their sentence is going to be? And two, what do you like most about being a judge? I'll get those two questions quite often. Regarding sentencing, well, when we're at that stage, I'll have somebody go to the probation department for what's called a pre-sentence interview. And we get a report back, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages long, depending on what their criminal history is. And I'll be able to review that, and it tells me everything about that person, what sort of issues they have going on, what sort of help they need. And we really do, we read those ahead of time, and we focus our sentence on trying to get help, whatever type of help is needed to that person. If it's an alcohol issue, if it's a mental health issue, drug issue, whatever it may be. Obviously, sometimes we have people that just made a poor choice one night, had a bad night, ended up in court. We're not too worried about them, and that report will read that way. Hey, Liz, this is somebody that needs to be monitored maybe a little bit, but not as strongly or as often as somebody else. But then we have other cases where it's very, very important to have constant monitoring, and I think Judge Reed's going to touch on sobriety court, drug court, and so forth like that in a minute. And that's one example of somebody, the type of the defendant that needs to be extra monitored. Part of our sentencing will include potentially counseling, probation, fines and costs, community service, forcing them, not forcing, but sometimes forcing with the threat of jail, them to go to the counseling that they're needed, whether it's substance abuse counseling, mental health counseling. Quite often it's being a negotiator, making sure people are taking their medications when they should. Because sometimes that lack of taking that ends up in some actions and they come on into court. There are certain programs that can help keep criminal convictions off of somebody's record, I should say. Whether it's a drug issue or a fight they may have, a domestic violence issue, whatever that may be, there are certain statutes that we can take a case under to try and keep that off their record, if they earn it, if they follow through on probation 100% and have earned that along the way. Obviously, jail is a last resort. We don't enjoy doing that, but we do. We have to do it. It's an everyday reality for a district court judge that you have people, when you determine that they're a risk to society, the only thing we can do to make sure they're no longer a risk is to have them in the Oakland County Jail. But we try and provide every other option before we get to that.
Obviously, jail's expensive. One of the things that we do to try to keep offenders out of jail is, again, as Judge Law said, we sentence them with a philosophy of trying to rehabilitate them as well as punish. And the sobriety court program, the drug court program, and our veterans treatment court program are three of the examples where we do that day to day. So specialty courts, as they're called, are intensive probationary terms. And they're usually targeted at a certain group of recidivist offenders, people who have not just gone once to court, but these are people who are frequent flyers, if you will. They're coming in over and over, and they have some sort of underlying issue, usually a substance abuse problem, that's causing them to come back over and over again. And these programs that are intensive provide extreme counseling. They provide monitoring that is very, very intensive. They provide a balance of inpatient counseling, outpatient counseling, 12-step meetings, meetings weekly with probation officers, things that you normally wouldn't see in a regular probation case for a misdemeanor. And it really works. The recidivism rates are proven to be lower if you graduate from one of these programs. And our sobriety court program has been along a long time before I became a judge. But we've really changed some of them around, and in particular, we're very proud of our veterans treatment court and our drug court. With the opiate problem that's just swept across the country, that program was developed to handle that particular problem. And it's much different, by the way, from alcohol addiction. Believe it or not, opioid addiction is significantly different, and the treatment goals and plans are different. So you have to treat them differently, and you have to give them different tools so they can get control of their lives. And that's really what we're all about in these specialty courts. We want people to get control of their lives so they don't come back, they don't present a danger to the community anymore, and frankly, everybody wins.
And those specialty courts are very specialized in that these defendants will come back into the court at least once a month they'll be seeing, or twice a month they'll be seeing a judge.
Twice a month.
Be seeing a probation officer once a week. Or a normal person on probation, you put them on probation, I may never see them again. They go on their way, they do their counseling, they do their community service. I'll get a little report at the end saying so-and-so did everything they're supposed to do or didn't, and they move on. But with those types of sobriety court, drug court, vet court, they're back in front of us quite often, at least twice a month. So we build a bit of a rapport with them too, a bridge, so to speak, relationship. Right. And that goes back to when I touched on earlier, when I get asked, what do you like best? It's working in those programs. Just being able to help somebody hopefully shepherd through there. It's not easy. It's not an easy program. None of them are. Drug court, sobriety court, the vet court, there's a lot that's put on their plate. And at the beginning, you can see they're wide-eyed and gun-shy because they're like, I don't know if I can do this. And so to be supportive and hopefully help them through that program a little bit is really rewarding.
And we do have graduation ceremonies that are open to the public. And frankly, you're all welcome. Everyone's welcome to come. It can be very emotional. It's interesting. They all get a chance. Every graduate gets a chance to speak. And their stories are of the transformation that they have undertaken. It's very moving.
So we would love to have you. If you have any interest in coming out and watching that, please let us know.
Or if you want a tour of the courthouse. We are big believers that this is your courthouse, not ours. So come on in, we'll give you a tour. I'm the big coffee guy, so I always have coffee on. I'll buy coffee.
That goes for anybody. If you ever want to come by the courthouse, please
Absolutely.
feel free, okay?
It's your courthouse.
Yeah.
That's really, really great. I do have a question about the school, the courtroom in the school.
Sure.
Do you do them then in South Line schools? Have you done them there?
Yeah. We've done them at South Lyon East, I don't think we've done one at Old. South Lyon hasn't reached out as much as Walled Lake Consolidated Schools, to be honest.
So
But we try every
you actually take the courtroom into the school and?
Yes,
you-
real
you-
cases.
You run the whole thing?
We,
Okay.
the sheriff provides a deputy, so we have security there. And we're taking cases, by the way, that are nonviolent offenders. So we're not having any of the kids exposed to anyone who's a violent offender. Again, we're picking cases that'll resonate with a young person. Maybe a shoplifting from someone who's 22. Drunk driving from someone who's a young person, 21, 22 years old, not that long out of high school themselves. Something where they're not looking at an old man like me saying, oh, well, that won't happen to me. This is a person who was in high school 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And so we think that resonates with the young people.
So you do that like in the auditorium and
Yes.
you invite the
Right.
whole school comes
The
to
whole
watch?
school.
Really?
Sometimes they'll piece it up. They may not have the whole school in there at the same time.
Right, we might get 2 grades, they might do 2
Well, I
sessions.
would like to see how we could do that more often. Who needs to reach out to you to do that? Because I agree with you. I think that would be amazing for the young people to see what could happen with a bad decision.
Right.
I think that's a wonderful thing. If there's any way you could let me know when you're gonna reach out or do you reach out or do you have them reach out to you?
Oh, we'll
We
typically
reach out, we talk to, for example, Melissa Baker, and
Okay.
they're always very receptive. Part of it is a scheduling issue too.
It is.
With plays and
Oh,
other things. that
it's
take
tough,
up
no
the-
question.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like they're not interested.
No, they're
It just
interested,
hasn't worked
right.
as of yet too much, that's all. But
Right. I'd like to move some of
Okay.
them forward. I think that's really
I'll
worth
circle
it.
back with
And Judge Law likes to go over to Catholic Central for some reason.
you. Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that's where I graduated. so.
Well, congratulations for bringing that back in. I think it's wonderful that you did that.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thank you.
We're very proud of it, so. Unless there are any more questions, anybody?
Any questions?
Take enough of your time, thank you, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for
Thank you.
coming in.
Thank you.
That was very, very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honors.
All right, any more announcements? Anyone else have anything they'd like to come up, talk about? Anybody up here? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move on to call to the public. That's when we'll have you come up in 3 minutes and talk about non-agenda items. Come on up, give your name and address for the record.
Hi there. My name is Tony Verbiscus. I know some of you have seen, and I run the crime watch for Curry Road between 8 and 9. We have a petition, since the road is being paved, on what the residents want for speed limit, no passing signs, and a bicycle lane. In the worst case, reclassification of the road to follow that of Wixom, a major road through a residential district. And that means limits of speed, no through traffic like semis and stuff like that, is what we're, worst case. But we've given you the petitions. I guess according to your SAD or flyer from the road commission, the next step is you go to the road commission. You show them, and then somehow we'll hopefully get together, all of us, even the members on the road, and come to terms on what we want, what we're gonna get, go from there, and the road gets paved in a timely fashion, let's say that, because it's too late and too long from being in the past, and well, it's only one of 2 Class A roads in Oakland County left to be paved. So you understand. Hopefully we can make the road great again, like when we had 25-mile-an-hour speed limits, and get our bicycle lanes in. I even saw a bicyclist on it when coming here. We like to take walks too, and we like to even take golf carts and like Lanny and his ATV down the road. By the way, we've got 31 out of 35 signatures. Lanny Young is procrastinating, but we're gonna get him.
I was gonna ask you, Laney, who?
Lanny Young. Lanny who?
I'm joking.
Yeah, my neighbor. So, but anything you can do, and appreciate the work with us. We're more than glad to work with you. You've done a great job and continue to do.
And I do think that when it gets closer, I think that we'll have to be part of the whole scenario. I think the road has to be
I
involved.
agree.
I mean, absolutely.
Because most of the people that make the decisions don't live on the road. They don't understand. We had the police study, 73 miles an hour a car came through, and it's dirt. What's it gonna be like when it gets paved? And if they want
83.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. They'll
No,
start
but
at
I
one-
agree with you,
We'll have
Tony.
lights at the corner at 10 Mile, they'll flash and they'll take off, yeah, like the drag strip.
I do agree with you, though. I think the road has to be part of the process, and, you know, being that Oakland County does own the roads, and they're running the engineering, they're running everything, it's a forcible thing that we'll just have to get everybody in the room, and as that gets closer,
Right.
I think we can work with you on that.
I think we
mean,
can.
yeah,
And like
think
I
so.
say, they've been, and like when we had the 20, they were more than cooperative and you were, and we got it
Absolutely.
done. You know, it's
Yep.
just the rules change, laws are implemented by people, and there's no people representation to fight for them, and they pass these laws that are ludicrous. You know,
I
and
gotcha.
we have to live with them.
Yeah, I got you. We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
coming
your
up.
time.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Tony.
it.
Thank you, Tony.
I'll get you right next, okay? 1 second. Come on.
Hi, good evening.
How you doing?
Hi, thank you. My name is Paul Vandenheed. I live at 23727 Point Woods Court in Tanglewood. I'm also here to talk about the Curry Road conditions. Although my wife and I do not live on Curry Road, we are certainly impacted by the change in the traffic that's taken place there. Now, as you all know, Lyon Township has seen transformational development over the last 10 years. And managing this growth is quite difficult. There's balancing act between competing interests, the regulations, they're all very complex. But whether we're talking about local, state, or federal government, the number one job of politicians, of elected officials, is to protect the citizens' rights and their property thereof, which brings me to Curry Road. Several years ago, the speed limit on Curry Road between 8 and 10 Mile Road was removed. Overnight, the speed limit went from 25 to 55 miles an hour. This is a completely residential road. I called Oakland County Road Commission about it, and they told me point blank, we don't answer to you. We don't answer to citizens. Well, who do you answer to? We answer to those people who pay gasoline taxes, the truckers. So during the development that's been taking place in Lyon Township, there's a lot of policy decisions that are made. And I've got a degree in policy science, for what it's worth. I understand many policy outcomes are unexpected. Some are detrimental. Some are taking place, the policymakers aren't even aware of what the effects are. And I think that's what perhaps happened with Curry Road. As I mentioned, the speed limit went from 25 to 55 overnight. Do the math. That's over 100% increase. Soon thereafter, heavy trucks, heavy vehicles, and the speed limit went up. They were using it. Everybody who wanted to get from north to south, that was the route of choice, and they've taken advantage of it. Now, understand, this is not a rush hour event. This starts at 5:30 a.m., literally, 6 days a week. It goes on until 7:30 p.m. It's not just the garbage trucks that are going down to the dump in Salem, although that's a large percentage of it. There's school buses that run on that route because there's school children that live on it. That's not the issue, though. The safety issue is not only the trucks and the landscapers and everybody who left the 19th hole at Tanglewood or Riverbank who wants to get south without a cop seeing them. It's also the tankers. Are you aware that there's tanker trucks running up and down Curry at 50, 55 miles an hour?
Well, I
The
really
laws
think,
of physics, pardon me,
I-
the laws
I-
of physics are involved here, sirs, ladies. Do you know how long it takes a truck traveling at 55 miles an hour to stop? I do. 6 seconds. Over 500 feet. Count with me. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. Do you want your loved ones in front of that?
okay, we do have to wrap it up. You are working on your third minute here.
Sir, I'm a citizen.
I understand that, but we do
And
have a
I'm
time
getting to
limit
my
to the
point.
call.
Please. You
Well,
know,
we're waiting. Come on, we'll get to it. We are working on this. You can speak. You're over your 3 minutes. I'm going to
I'm
allow
sorry.
you some extra
I
time.
wasn't told there's a 3-minute limit when
I
I
said it
started.
right at the beginning of the call. It's a 3 minute.
Oakland County sheriffs agree with me, agree with us. It's not safe for the conditions of the road. It's a dirt road. Ultimately, there's competing interests that have to be met. Developers want to move traffic. Truckers want to get from point A to point B in the quickest route possible. Of course, property owners can't move their houses. They don't have another route to take. They want their property values protected. Again, we can't move our houses. I respectfully ask the trustees for the following. Disallow heavy commercial through traffic on Curry Road. Contrary to what Oakland County's Road Commission claims, it is 100% residential. Many of the houses are close to the street. That traffic should be rerouted around the township. Napier Road has 6, I've counted them, 6 owner-occupied houses on it. Griswold, a similar number. It's mostly commercial. Take the commercial traffic around there. They shouldn't be running up and down a residential street. Drop the speed limit to 35 miles an hour. I understand by speaking to law enforcement people that you can only move the speed limit down 85% of what the existing or previous speed limit is. It can be done in 2 steps, 55 to 45 to 35. We're not limited by the number of steps that it can take. I appreciate your patience. Just a moment. If you're interested, I have handouts for you on the math, on the physics involved with stopping heavy loaded trucks. And sincerely, I don't intend to sensationalize any of this, but injuries and loss of property, worse can happen in situations like this. And I urge you to please, in the coming weeks and months, reconsider this terrible, these conditions that exist, and stand up for the property rights and the safety of not only residents, but commuters as well. I travel Curry Road every day. I've been passed on the right. Okay? These trucks coming on you, I don't do 55. It's not safe. I do 35, 40. It's comfortable, it's safe. These truckers are driving over me. So I appreciate your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Ed Leslie.
Would you please come to the podium, please? Thank you.
My name's Ed Leslie. I'm at 23001 Curry Road. I had a few questions. How soon will this road be paved?
That's kind of up in the air, but we're thinking probably more towards the end of 2021. Is that what they said, Leslie? We're going to do a lot of engineering, probably not till 2021, towards the end.
Why is it so fast on the speed limit?
Oh, well, that's set by the state, right? Doesn't the state set the speed limit? The state sets a speed limit, and there's really not much that we can do as a township to, we can petition them, we've tried, we've done a lot of things, but they actually set it by, it's kind of Oakland County's road, and the state tells you what the speed limit is, and it's hard to move them.
Well, I think 55 miles per hour is much too fast.
All dirt roads in Michigan are 55. I agree with you, sir. Thank you. Come on up. Hello.
Hi, how are you? My name is Emily Davis. I live at 22,000 Curry Road. Thank you. And thank you to my neighbors who have spoken a lot about how they feel about Curry. I'm kind of new to the process of making requests, but I'm here also to have my voice heard. My husband and I have 5 children, and we live on Curry Road between 8 and 9 Mile, and we're just asking for the speed limit to be lowered. We just don't feel safe.
Leslie, what could the township do to help lower the speed limit on Curry Road?
So
What can we do?
the way that it works on gravel roads, By state law, it's a 55 mile per hour prima facie speed limit. And Lieutenant Venusfield, Lieutenant's not here. Sergeant Whitfield, please jump in if I'm wrong, but this is what I was told by the state police. They set the speed limit. The only way to change it is, like, once the road is paved, for example, which it will be in the next 2 years. It's under design by the Road Commission. In the township, the roads are under jurisdiction of the Road Commission. We make requests to them as well. But for changing a speed limit, the only way to do it is to request a speed study. Typically, it takes about 3 years for a speed study to even be done. That's how long the backlog is. And when you request a speed study, for example, 10 mile, I know there's many people here from Curry, but I'm gonna use 10 mile as an example. They will study it throughout the entire county. So it's not just, will you study it only in Lyon Township? It's a pretty significant study. Now Curry might be less because there are only 2 miles within the township, but it's a scientific study, and there's a certain percentile, and I believe it's the 85th percentile of whatever the speed the drivers drive is the speed limit that is set. And sometimes it is more than what people are driving. You know, like if it's posted, for example, at 55, it could be people are driving more than that. So it doesn't always go in favor of what the residents who live on the road want. And I don't know if the Road Commission ever restricts roads to non-truck traffic roads. Certainly during frost laws, during certain times of the year, during the spring, truck traffic would not be allowed on that road, but it is a public road. And I've never heard of an example when they've only allowed residential. That doesn't mean that they don't. I've never encountered it. So it's the speed limits are really set much higher than even the township.
So, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Before you talk, can I ask one more question?
That isn't my
So
business.
when you say they do a speed study, who are you talking? Is that a third party that is hired by the county or the state?
The Road Commission would do it at request, but
Who could request that, is what I'm asking.
the township could request
So
it.
we could request a road study, so
Okay,
maybe
so then
there's a
I'll
way.
formally ask for that at this point, but I have to tell you that we've put our home on the market. We don't feel safe. We have 5 children. My youngest is 2. My husband and I are both educators nearby. You know, we've called Oakland County Road Commission. We haven't gotten the answers. We haven't really had, you know, on the phones, when you call, I don't think that their job is to help us understand the process, so that's why I'm here tonight.
And one other thing that everyone has to realize is the township really owns no roads. We don't own one road in Lyon Township, not one. The county owns all of them, and there are some private roads that are owned by private subdivisions. So that being said, when the county decides that they're going to do a project, they do it. And we have some say-so. We get invited to the meetings. We'll get some input. But believe me, the county is their roads, and they're going to do what the county is going to do. Now, some input we may have as a township is like when we talked about bike paths. They may, and they did offer that up. They said, do you want maybe one on the shoulder? Are you looking for a wider shoulder bike path possibly? Or do you want an absolutely all by itself bike path? And they said, if you want that, it would have to be paid for by the people on the road. So you have to look at that, because that could get very expensive. And there's easements that need to be acquired. And I'm sure that if you guys like the bike path, you'd give the easements up. But that's all part of the process. So it does become a little expensive.
Sure.
But we will help.
Right,
any way we
but
can.
you know, I'm here representing my family, and we would like the speed limit lowered immediately. It isn't safe. We have a hard time getting our mail. As my neighbor spoke, cars pass, we get passed every day, trucks and
We do
other
understand
vehicles.
that, believe me, and I know we do understand that. But again, you know, we're kind of held by Oakland County standards, but we'll do everything we can.
So I heard you say we can ask for that study to be done? The township can?
You can request it to the township, and we can make the request to the Road Commission, but considering the fact they'll be paving it within 2 years, I don't think they will immediately do a speed study. If they do it, they will wait until after it's paved. And what they have told me is they have a backlog of several years of studies, because they represent over 40 communities in Oakland County. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't make the request and provide them the copy of the minutes for tonight's meeting. There's several residents that spoke. I have a copy of the petition, and we can forward all of that information. I just can't guarantee when they would do that, but I really do not think they will invest the resources while it's gravel.
But we can certainly ask.
All right, well, so
We can
as a
certainly-
resident, I certainly know that they're not listening to me, so that's why I'm here. You know,
You're not-
they're-
believe me, we're in that boat
It's
too.
just very dangerous, and I just, you know, it's my family, we're hoping to move, because we're not gonna wait till the end of 2021. We can't walk to our next door neighbor's house. We can't ride our bikes, but we've accepted that. Our next door neighbor's cat we found in front of our driveway. I mean, it's constant. We had a car run into the snow embankment trying to pass us. You know, it's every day, and it's a constant worry. As a mom, and all of my neighbors, we all, you know, all residents, and many of us have children, pets. We feel unsafe. So,
Okay.
thank you for listening.
Thank you very
I have
much.
additional information, I may just follow on briefly.
If you're brief, because there might be some others that would like to talk. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to talk?
Just-
Okay,
just
go ahead and be
in late-
brief.
Thank you. In following up with my neighbor, I've spoken to a number of people at the Road Commission of Oakland County. One man who insisted on remaining unidentified said there is a township in Oakland County that did lower the speed limit on their dirt roads. It can be done. It was the most northwest township in Oakland County. And with all due respect, the Road Commission of Oakland County might own these roads, but you folks represent us. You
Well,
know,
but we only have so much say-so at the table because they
Right.
own them.
But
But
you
here's the
guys
thing.
represent us.
Let
You
me
guys
ask you a question.
represent us.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Would 45
Pardon
be
me?
any better if we got it
45
lowered to
would be
45?
better.
Okay.
25 would be ideal.
I don't think we could get it to that.
35 is realistic. But
Okay.
more important than just the speed limit, sir, this heavy traffic can't, it's, how this was ever allowed to happen is incredible,
Okay.
in my opinion. Tankers.
And we
you know,
got all that.
Double
You've
bottom
mentioned that.
semis. And yesterday was even worse. I said 6 days a week. Yesterday at 5:40, a truck woke me up. And,
got it.
you know, the din, it's incredible.
We
But,
understand that, but we do have to move
But,
on.
but to wait 3 years, you know,
Well, we'll see. We don't know that for sure. We can ask. Okay, come on up. How you doing?
Hello, my name is Elwood Metzler. I've got a unique piece of property. I'm on Autumn Ridge Drive. You may not know what it looks like. There's only 3 houses on it. I have property on both sides of Autumn Ridge Drive, and it goes up to Curry Road. And it's a challenge for me pulling out left or right, as this gentleman was talking about. And it's a very dangerous road at times. And I realize you people, your hands are tied in some regards.
Well, they aren't always. We're going to try.
Well-
We do have a voice at the table. I'll give you that.
But when the engineer over here talked about a 3-year study,
But that's normal. We'll see.
I
We
understand
gotta
that.
ask.
But what I'm getting at, 3 years, this one woman back here, she's afraid to let her kids outside because of the fact that the traffic is terrible. I just want to run off something real quick.
Go ahead.
We talked about no commercial traffic, and that's probably difficult to restrict, okay? What about stop signs? There are about 5 different intersections. Some of them are Woody Lane, Autumn Ridge Drive, Stone Ridge, Laurel's Way, and 9 Mile. 9 Mile has stop signs on the east-west entrance to Curry Road. Well, if you can't restrict the speed, if you can't get it down, how much does a stop sign cost?
We can ask for that.
Let's put it this way. I'll pay for the one at Autumn Ridge Drive, going both ways. And I'm not deep pockets. I'll
I don't think it's the
install
stop
it.
sign that
Please
costs the
don't have
money.
the
I think
county
it's the
get involved
intersection.
in installing it. They'll have to do a study, okay? My study is put it in, okay? When this is done, the plowing of the snow then becomes the requirement of, or the, provided by the county,
Mm-hmm.
okay? What about a roundabout? I heard Mr. Verbiscus told me a roundabout is going to be going in on 8 Mile.
That is my understanding.
And they're talking about it.
Time
but
frame,
I don't
10
know.
years?
No, in 2 years.
In 2 years?
Yeah, I don't
With-
know
Part
how
of the
they're phasing
project.
it, though.
With-
There's gonna be
with-
public meetings, they're at the very early stage of design.
Okay, but with the paving of Curry Road as a part of that?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay,
From the kickoff.
very good.
Leslie, we will have more meetings, right?
Oh, yeah, they'll have a
And they
public
will be
meeting when they're
public
further
meetings, and
along.
we can get that out there, so you
I
guys
would-
can have
I
a,
just would like to get that out of the way real quick, because Tony told me that, and when Tony speaks, everybody listens, okay? Law enforcement, this still will be covered by Oakland County, the Sheriff's Office.
yes.
No one else.
Well, I think that's our jurisdiction.
Okay. Will there be a cost to the homeowners in their taxes as a result of this?
Only if you want a bike path.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I think that would have to be assessed by the people living on the road. But again, that's down the road. That would have to get estimated. You'd
Yeah,
have to understand it.
But I like what I hear, and I like the communication that you people are providing to us. I would just like to see if there's going to be something, is there anything that will come from you on the progress of this as it unfolds during the time that this is going to come to
Like I
fruition?
say, I think they'll have a couple more public meetings, to say a few, there'll probably be several, and everybody on the road will get notified, and you'll be able to go to that meeting and voice your opinion to the road commission,
Okay.
just like you are tonight, which
Yeah.
would probably be very helpful, actually.
There'd be at least one meeting, but all correspondence would be coming through the road commission or their consultants working on the project. The township wouldn't necessarily be sending out separate notices because it is their project. If there
But
are.
they do a good job at that.
But
They
I
get
will
them.
forward the minutes, once they're approved, to the road commission and express the concerns that were raised this evening.
Okay.
And they are under design, and they're the road designers for that project, so they'll take them into consideration, and you'll have an opportunity to meet with them.
I live on a dirt road, and my dirt road is phenomenal, because there's only 3 houses on it. And it's just amazing how well one neighbor, he takes care of grading that road to make sure it is good for us. Obviously, you can't get neighbors doing Curry Road, but that thing, at times, I can't even get to my mailbox.
I got
It's
it.
a tank trap.
Well, we understand, so
So,
believe me, thank
but
you for
as-
coming
as
in
long
and
as-
letting us
As long
know.
as we're gonna be informed,
You will be.
and that's
You
all I
will
can
be.
ask for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to come up?
John, I mean, can we add this to an agenda? I mean, I don't think it would hurt to ask for the speed study. I mean, I don't think any. this is
We can
something
do
most-
that. We can ask him for that.
I don't, is it formal? Does it take formal action?
No, we'll just ask him.
Because even if we're on the list, I mean, if we're 2 years away from paving,
We'll just ask him for it. We'll get
Yeah,
it.
I mean-
Leslie can do that. She can take care of that.
Yeah,
Take
it
care of
was-
that right away.
pretty unfortunate that this happened. Like, you're right, it's statewide, and it's a terrible law. 55 is too fast on most any gravel road I've ever been on.
Yep. Okay, no one else like to come up? All right, seeing no one else, we'll close the call to the public and move on to the reports. The DDAs, first up. Tina.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey.
I was on vacation in July, so I'm actually going to provide a redevelopment report for both June and for July. So in June, there was a total investment in construction value of new and renovated commercial and industrial properties in the amount of $405,539. In July, we saw a much slower month with new and renovated investment around $11,300. But for year-to-date, we've seen an investment of over $37 million in brand-new developments, with brand-new developments representing $32.5 million of that $37 million. And this would include the large projects for Zeiss, which is a big dollar amount, and also for Exotic Automation. So we do have some new businesses opening. Just Still Art Studio will be located at 56200 Grand River. That is in the Edge District of the downtown, near the East Roundabout. Fraser Cremations and Funerals Homes has opened. That is located at 21001 Pontiac Trail in the southwest corridor of the township. And Jeff Sandler's State Farm Insurance has opened at 5600 766 Grand River in the core of the downtown. Coming soon, we do have a new winery that will be opening at 56808 Grand River. Also, Earthwise Pet Nutrition Center and Wellness is going to be located And the Lyon Town Square Shopping Center, which is down by Kroger at 8 Mile, that address is 20748 Pontiac Trail. And I just want to give you a recap. There's only 2 suites remaining in that shopping plaza. And of our 6 major shopping plazas, we're at 100% occupancy. So that, with that in mind, I have reached out to a number of developers, and we're starting discussions on potential medical office buildings and additional shopping centers, using those numbers to show that we definitely have a demand. I also put onto the economic development page of our website a recent study that I had done by Oakland County that shows supply and demand. And so when you look at that study, it has dollar values for the different categories. So a good example is auto dealerships. If you look at the supply that we have here located in the township with demand, we actually have quite a few dealerships. But if you look at restaurants, we're undersupplied. So it's a really nice recap that helps developers see where we have what's called leakage. And what that means is if we don't have enough restaurants, then people will go to other communities to eat at other restaurants. So we can get more detailed information from the county, but I wanted to start at that top level so that folks can get a better understanding of it. We also have a new pet salon that's opening in the former Doggy Doo location. That'll be called Amazing Pet Salon, and also a new warehouse distribution center in the Quadrants Industrial Certified Park. And that was a former spec building, so we're excited to see that that's going to be moving forward. The DDA will begin review of their capital improvement projects in preparation for the budget talks this fall. And the DDA board will also start work on updating the vision plan for the New Hudson area, and we'll be using the services of our planners, McKenna. This plan is due for its 5-year update, and we'll be engaging the public for comment and feedback through surveys and other communications tools. So we'll be doing that over the next 6 months. Reminder to everyone that the DDA is sponsoring the Lyon Township Music Fest, which is produced by the Lyon Events Organization. It will be held on Saturday, August 17th from 6 to 11 p.m. here in Atchison Park. Our local brewery, Draft Horse, will be providing the beer and the wine. And we also have 2 musical performances that evening. A country western star, Dwayne Spar, will be performing, and also a classic rock band, the George Brothers Band. So I would encourage everyone to set that date aside and come and visit us. The DDA is also hosting a Great Lake to Lake Trail event. We're going to be part of this. It's a event where it's like 150 cyclists will be traveling from South Haven all the way to Port Huron, and they have chosen New Hudson as a location to stop in. So we'll be hosting them just for snacks and water and restroom stop, but that's going to be in September. So we'll have more information to come on that. And that would conclude my report.
Very good. Any questions for Tina? All right, moving on to Fire Chief Ed Sparatek.
Actually, Kelly, why don't you bring the Lucas 3 machine up? So just over a year ago, you'll see me later, so I'll try to make this brief, just one story. Just over a year ago, we met and talked about some equipment needs, and the Lucas 3 machine is a CPR machine that's over $15,000, but because of the millage and also EMS transport revenue, and the support of this board, we were, in unanimous support, we were able to get 2 of these machines and place them, 1 in each rescue. So last Saturday on the 27th, or whatever Saturday that was, we had a call of a CPR, and we had 3 of our firefighters that, again, the equipment can be the best, but without the professionalism and skill of the firefighters responding and all first responders, then it doesn't make a big difference. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the crew and commend them on a great job. When they arrived, they got the Lucas 3 machine ready. For those of you that don't know, you don't have to demonstrate it unless we have a rookie here. But this is it's a CPR machine, and it looks kind of violent, but it's doing chest compressions that are, more efficiently than the public or more efficiently than a person can do. And so we had our first save with this Lucas 3 on Saturday as the firefighters prepped the Lucas 3, the AED, and along with performing chest compressions. Before the paramedics had even arrived, we had the Lucas going, The AED had already administered a shock, and our crew had an airway dropped, and they were bagging the patient. And so again, I just wanted to recognize Kelly Blades was one of those firefighters, and two that can't be here are Alan Clymer and Miranda Andrews. But I just wanted to say that, you know, because of your support and the skills of these guys, that we saved a life, and the wife came in a few hours later, and he was in stable condition and doing great.
Oh, my God. That's what we call them, the best.
And I'll see you in a while, unless there's any questions.
You know, I remember back when you guys came to us with that Lucas machine, and, oh, my God, to see that thing work was insane. It was insane. But to know that it actually saved a person in the township, it made it worth every dime we ever spent on that. And thank you guys. I know you guys had to learn that machine, and by the way it looked, you better learn that machine, because that thing is crazy.
I'd also like to encourage everyone to learn CPR.
Yes.
You know, especially at the fire station, we're going to be offering training, and it'll be on the website or Facebook.
That is such good stuff. Thank you, Chief, for bringing them up in here. That was really great stuff. That was great. All right, we're moving on to the Sheriff's Department. Sergeant Whitfield, anything for us tonight?
We don't have any reports, sir, but I'll be addressing
Oh, okay. Moving on to Planning Commission. Patty, anything going on?
Yes, we had two planning commission meetings in July. The first one was Monday, July 8th. And Brian, our planner, had brought 5 subjects for the planning commission to kind of talk about and see if we wanted to update, amend, or create some ordinances. And they were donation bins, entryway signage size, new Hudson lot width and coverage, shipping container standards, and temporary use standards. So the planning commission gave some direction to Brian, and that was the only thing on our agenda for that night. Then we had Monday, July 22nd, we had an extension for the site plan for the Blue Cross Blue Shield parking lot, and they were requesting an additional year because of their finance. They wanted to get that dollar amount in the next year, which would be 2020 to 2021. And then we had another thing about a conceptual plan for Dandy Acres, but they did not attend a meeting, so the planning commission did not want to talk about it because there was no one there to answer any of our questions. And that concludes my report for the month of July.
Okay. Thank you, Patty. Any questions?
Did you say Blue Cross didn't have enough money?
They said that they wanted it in a different budget
All right.
year.
I was just making sure I heard that right. I don't think they pay taxes, and nobody's rates go down, so.
They pay taxes now.
Oh, do they?
Oh, yeah, they did.
Well,
Yep. Yep.
okay.
They used to not, though.
But still, nobody's rates ever go down.
Right.
All right, moving on. ZBA. Lisa, anything going on there?
We had a meeting on June 17th, and we had 2 applicants. One applicant, he didn't even present. Correct. So the first applicant did not present anything, and we tabled that until September. And we had Huron Valley Outfitters with about 5 items, and that was tabled as well to get a little bit more direction.
Okay. Very good. Any question for Lisa? All right. Moving on, Park Advisory Board, Robert. What's going on, Robert?
Well, we ended up recommending the replacement of the disc golf fee collection box, along with relocating it down the drive here, so it's easier to be checked on and catch people on their way up to the course. Additionally, we spent a good amount of time discussing items, brainstorming for our section of the capital improvement plan, and if anyone would like to weigh in on that at all, our meeting this month on the 20th, we'll be finalizing that to send back to planners.
Robert, I have a question. Did anything ever come to fruition with the league that wanted to play up on the other side of the diamonds? Or have you anybody ever contacted?
Brian, can you?
After they held their one practice up there to see if they were in favor of updating those facilities, and it's been radio silence since.
Pretty rough shape.
So my feeling is we probably won't hear back.
Okay.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
just wondered.
But that is one thing that we're looking at, is trying to focus on what can we do to increase utilization of this park while we're waiting on development of other locations. So.
Sounds great. Okay, thanks, Robert. DPW, Bob, anything?
Yeah, John, just a couple quick things. We're in the midst of our highest usage of the season right now for water usage. We monitor it very closely every day, and right now we're somewhere between 2.8 and 3.2 million gallons a day of water usage in the township, and a lot of that goes with the weather. If we get a little bit of rain, it goes down, but if we have a week of dry weather, we're pushing 3.2, if not more, every single day. And we just completed copper and lead testing in the township. We did 20 homes throughout the township. We got our results back, reported to the DEQ, which is now Eagle. Every home passed with flying colors, and that is a very delicate subject anymore, you can imagine, in the state of Michigan, but we passed, and things are looking very strong for us. So that concludes my report.
And that was a pretty tough job.
Yeah, it was, to
You
get
worked hard
20
getting them
samples.
samples. It was a.
Yes, the
Doesn't sound like
resident
it'd be
is,
hard,
yep,
but
is
it was.
responsible for taking those samples.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the reports for tonight, so we're gonna move on to unfinished business. And Ed had a conflict tonight, so we kind of wanna have Bob, who's gonna give us a little update on
Yeah.
how things are going with the water treatment facilities, and I
So-
believe they're really going in good shape.
We are moving quickly and ahead at the South Hill Grand River Water Treatment Plant. There's a crew there every single day working of about 10 to 15 guys. 3 walls are up. The pressure filters have been placed in the concrete floor, and they promised us by the end of the month, all the walls and the ceiling will be up, and things are moving right on. Just to remind the community, this is going to be a mirror of the existing plant we just finished at the Woodwind subdivision, and it'll be ready to go online, we hope, by the end of the year. And by later this fall, the tower will be completed at 9 in Griswold, so things are looking up for us. So, and we so appreciate the cooperation we've had from the residents of our township to work with us to get over this hump this summer. And everything is going really good, and days of that we've experienced are going to be in the rearview mirror. So thank you very much to our community and for moving ahead with our water system. Thank you.
And then just to add to that, the tower on Griswold is completely poured now.
Yep.
The entire top are waiting for the cure. I believe the cure is pretty much done.
Yep.
So now you'll start seeing the tank assembled, and that's the next stages. They're gonna start assembling the tank, so that's good stuff. And one other thing, a little on the other side, in the sewer, our lift stations, the SCADA is almost complete on all the lift stations. So it is a very, very nice system we have now, and
We can look at it every day at any moment. Yeah.
it shows us exactly where every pump is, what they're doing, any alarm set off. We actually had, we got the Kensington generator online. We got that one put in, and the power went out. The generator ran that system for 3 days.
For 3 days.
So, I mean, all that stuff is great stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
it was flawless. It ran perfect, so. Any questions?
I don't know if you know or if we have to ask yet, but the status of the softening component to the water systems, has that been fully vetted through the DEQ yet, or?
He's still working on that.
He's still- okay.
He's got,
I know he's been concentrating on
he's
the
got some
plans.
hurdles, but he's still working on that. That's what I can tell you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Anyone have any other questions? Okay. We're going to move on to consideration of adoption of the mandatory ordinance for the final review for Aspen Trails, formerly known as Aspen Gate. Is that, you going to start us out on that, Brian, or are we just going to go ahead and finish this thing up? This is the second reading.
It is the second
Final.
reading.
Nothing changed?
Nothing has changed since that point in time. Mr. Alco is here this evening if we have any additional questions.
I told him he had to be here tonight.
I apologize, I had it written down as the wrong date, I don't know why I did that, but I had it as a third, I'm thinking, why are they having a
Hey,
meeting
come on,
right
hey,
before the fourth?
come on up to the podium now.
So I apologize for not being here, it was a slip up on my part.
Yeah, you've never not been,
Yeah.
ever.
So that being said, would somebody like to make a motion, or is there any questions that you'd like to ask Mr. Alco?
I just wanted to make a comment that I do really appreciate how much you worked with the neighboring parcels, the neighbors, and really took into consideration their input on that project. So I definitely appreciate it, and I'm sure the neighbors do as well.
Thank you.
Wow, that was nice for you to be here.
Yes.
Anyone else?
I'd like to make a motion then. I'd like to support the AP 17-40 Aspen Trails Plan Development, formerly known as Aspen Gate, Final Plan Development Review.
I'll support that.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you for the tree rip.
Moving
Are you
on.
gonna get anything going this year? You gonna be doing anything this year? Probably in the spring.
Okay, we're going to move on to the second reading also of the peddlers and solicitors canvassers to replace that.
About the length of our constitution.
Yeah, this is something I think we're all familiar with, and
Make a motion that we adopt ordinance 08-19.
Support.
That was Chris.
Chris.
And
All
it was
those in
close.
favor? Say?
I said it was close, gotta
That's
go to
Chris.
video replay.
It's all right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to the adoption of the mandatory ordinance of the text amendment for swimming pools. It's also second reading.
I'll make a motion to approve AP 19-16 ordinance for the Charter Township of zoning ordinance text amendment on swimming pools.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Oops, go ahead.
I have 19.
09-19?
Yeah, she didn't say the number, she actually said the AP 19-16, but it's ordinance number 09-19.
Sorry.
It's okay.
That's good.
I looked at it too, but yeah.
It's okay.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to new business. Okay, this is where we move this around a little bit. The approval for the sheriff's radar speed detection device. And Sergeant Whitfield, come on up. We got a sidekick tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Sergeant Burwell with me as well. Good evening, everyone.
How you doing?
All right, we're looking for some consideration or some funds to purchase a couple of pieces of equipment for the township. We have a couple of quotes here. We would like a pole-mounted graphic display sign. So what this is it's a speed limit sign that can attach to poles. We get a lot of complaints regarding people speeding in the neighborhoods, and this will be a good tool that we can use as kind of a deterrent to it'll reflect the person's speed back at them. And it will collect data for the people that travel in excess of that speed, so we can download that, and we can use it to kind of direct our enforcement efforts if we find something that needs to be addressed. All right, and the other...
Like Curry Road.
That's exactly what we all want to
Well,
say.
this all ties in.
We're already making amends right here.
And the other device we're looking to purchase, it's a handheld LiDAR, kind of a laser gun style. Again, it's a speed measurement device. And how it differs from what we have in the cars, we have kind of the radar head in the front or the rear of the patrol cars. Obviously, it's fixed and you can't be moved, but it projects, it emits a beam out in a cone shape away from the vehicle. So there could be, at a certain distance, there are multiple vehicles inside of the radar's field of view. So that makes it difficult to ascertain which vehicle is actually committing the violation. But with this gun, it's exact, it's direct. We can point the laser at a certain vehicle and track that vehicle and get that data returned to us for the speed and the distance. So again, these will be very useful in kind of a school zone or rush hour kind of radar enforcement traffic details. And we just like some money to purchase them.
So what did you get, 3 estimates? Is that
Well,
what
we
you
have
asked?
2 quotes here for and I believe they're going to give us a discount if we buy both of them together. With the LiDAR, we have a quote of $2,386, and the pole-mounted speed sign is, what is it, $3,516, so just under $6,000 for both pieces of equipment.
That really doesn't sound like a bad deal to me. I mean, that's going to really help law enforcement, it
Yes,
sounds like.
yes, it will.
Sean, this is something that you asked for.
Right up my alley. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve both items, both the speed sign and the LiDAR detector, for an amount not to exceed $6,000.
Support.
Okay, a motion and support for not to exceed $6,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? How long before you get that?
Thank you.
We have the LiDAR, we've been demoing that for a couple of months, so you've been in contact
Yeah,
with
the
the lady?
speed sign will be about 40 days out to order it, and we've been testing, because the sheriff's department works throughout the county, we've had a number of different one of these deployed. What we've purchased is the latest, the greatest, what we're testing. The guys have been using it now for almost 3 months with great success in our school zones, so we actually have the model now, and it'll continue to remain with us as long as the township can purchase it. So it's already deployed.
Very cool.
Fantastic.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
John, is it
Go ahead.
just to clear, I guess, more of a question, procedural question at this point is, how is this gonna get divvied up based on, I mean, just when we hear from resident complaints, or you guys probably have areas that you're aware of
We
that
get a lot of complaints
significant?
through text, phone call, email, all kinds of things. So when we figure out where it needs to go, it has a solar panel, so we can leave it there for a couple of days to kind of gather the data, and we can deploy our enforcement efforts as a result of that data. But I believe some of them have like a simulated flash, but
They'll track the speed, and then we'll randomly put it throughout the township where residents are complaining on, and then support it with deputies in cars with the LiDAR. So we'll be working together.
Okay.
For example, on Curry Road would be a prime example.
Right.
Put the sign out, and then work with, in addition, with the deputies equipped with the laser.
So if you have it like out on a street like Curry, I mean, you'd have a deputy downstream, so to speak, of the footprint possibly, or it just.
But with the LiDAR, the deputy, I mean, it's handheld and portable.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
for
but
that one.
with the speed sign, that's kind of unmanned.
Okay.
Curry Road one, you're gonna have to go dust it off a couple times a day,
Right.
so it keeps working properly. So.
Well, that's good, because I know we've heard
I'll do that.
from Curry Road, we've heard from Cobblestone
Right.
neighborhood, we've heard from Saddle Creek
The
neighborhood,
nice thing
so.
about the feature of the data is gonna be that a lot of times if you're standing still and cars are going by you, it doesn't perceive sometimes the vehicles are traveling faster. What we're gonna be able to do is actually download data and tell the residents actually what the speeds are, the highest speed, the lowest speed, the average speed. It's always collecting that data for us, and then we can generate enforcement where it's needed. So I think the residents are gonna like that.
Yeah, that'd be great if you're able to give that information to the residents.
Well, yeah,
Just
from
going-
time to
yeah.
time, we've like set up traffic enforcement details, and we have deputies out there for a number of hours, but this will be, there even when we're not able to be there to monitor.
Awesome, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, moving on, the local government approval for Teresita Mexican Grill Resort license. Tina, you got that one?
I do. So the Township Board approved a resort license application for Teresita Grill, which is located at 56310 on Grand River. And what has happened since is that they've expanded into the suite next to them. And so the state of Michigan Liquor Control came back and said in their letter that they would like to have that resolution changed to include both addresses. You will note, though, in the letter from the state that they actually got the address wrong. They wrote down 53600 when it's actually 56300. So I corrected it in the resolution just to make sure that that's accurate and correct. And so the request is that this resolution be updated to reflect both the addresses that are now tied to this application for the resort license.
Well, that's an easy one. Somebody want to make that motion?
I'd like to make the motion to approve resolution for the local government approval for Teresita's Mexican Grill for the new Class C license to be issued under MCL 436.1531 in parentheses 3, to be located at 56310 Grand River and at 56300 Grand River, New Hudson, Michigan 48165.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Get that done. Okay, going on to the next one. Here's our, this is for the approval of the installment agreement for the sanitary sewer connection for Lake Angeles. This is our first one, guys and gals. This is somebody that's asking for our help, and did everyone get the quote? Okay. Has everyone had a chance to look through this stuff?
Yes.
And
I provided some additional information
Just
today.
today,
Because
yeah.
I just got it today. And I've been working with Kent, and it's exactly what it said, and this is the ordinance that we brought to you before and that you approved. I think it's very reasonable. We're here to really help people, and since our ordinance is forcing this on them, and, you know, the financial part is difficult, I think it's a really good thing. We haven't had a specialist, normally our special assessments are shorter, but this is on a residential co-op. And I think 15 years is very doable, and I agree with, I thought 3%. I talked to Kent about it. And I wrote you that we've had a bond interest that was for 20 years at 2.8%. So 3% seems reasonable. Normally, we charge 5 to 8%.
So this is 15 years at 3%?
15 years at 3%.
We talked about this previously, and, you know, this isn't vacant land that developers are speculating on. These are people's homes, and, you know, they're connecting to the sewer system to remain in their homes because it's cost prohibitive because of the regulatory catch-22 they're in with the county and the DEQ, and this really seems like the only option. And as the residents proposed last time, I mean, they understand the requirements, they're committing to it. Financially, they need this, and you know, I would support this for them and for any other group.
And I think,
into the situation.
and I think in the future, I think that in our budget, we should put a line item for this. And we should try to figure out how much that we're capable of loans through the budget year. And I think we should set that number aside. And if these pop up, like this one, and Sean, this is 100% you talking about this, and I really applaud you for this because this is a really feel-good thing to do. I like this, that we can actually help the citizens of the township. So I applaud you for that.
Well, no, I think we're all on the same page with this, so.
Now, normally, we do charge a 5% admin fee, so I didn't know what the board wanted to do with that. Because we have to administrate it for 15 years.
Right.
But it's really, you realize it's getting borrowed out of the sewer enterprise fund,
Well-
and the money is going back into the
Right.
sewer enterprise fund. So.
And I was just gonna say that this isn't general fund money, this
No.
is sewer users' money being used for sewer projects, so.
Yep.
This is not general tax money mixing with utility money.
I mean, it really basically is down to Kathy and I. I mean, this, we'll be the ones that will be taking care of it, collecting it, rolling it.
If you're comfortable with 3%, then I am.
Well, the 3%, but what about, we've always charged
Oh, a
an
fee.
admin fee. So we have to administer it for, you know, like I said, 15 years.
So the it would be on top of that?
Yeah.
What was your discussion with the neighbors?
I'd rather not, I'd rather do it for free.
I like that.
Yeah, I thought you were saying you wanted.
Well, I want to make sure that the board is clear that we have in the past charged that. But we waived it for across the street for,
Paving?
the paving, blacktop.
Right.
And we haven't had one we haven't had this in a long time. Most of the admin fees were on, purchasing our, extra sewer taps. So those weren't really individual homeowners.
Right, and this is not a business entity making money, these are
Right.
residents trying to
Right.
stay in their houses, so.
I mean,
Right.
it's collecting, it's,
Right.
it's rolling it, and plus, they will only be charged exactly what
The
we
cost.
pay.
Right.
The cost, so
Right.
I'm saying it's about 150. Kent did a great job providing the estimates, but, you know, you can't, you know, they're still working on that, so
Mhm.
he
Yeah,
did a
you
great
won't
job.
know until it's completely done.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So.
And they're aware of that. They know that it's not
Yeah.
a final dollar amount, it's not an invoice, it's an
Yes.
estimate.
It's, yes. So, I think it's still part of our job, it's like collecting a tax. I don't know. I feel comfortable with it.
I am good with it if you are.
I am.
I feel like these people have been put in a position that is not of their making, it's not through their carelessness or anything at all, and it's really an unfortunate situation, and I'm completely comfortable not charging an administrative fee.
It's really, and they know what they're getting, so it's not something out there that, you know, it's on one tax bill. Remember, they divide it up, so
Right.
it's, I just feel happy. I would prefer not to charge them the 5% admin fee. But I wanted to make that very clear that sometimes we have done that in the past, but.
Is that a motion? I think we're all good. Let's
Okay.
make a motion.
Go ahead. Let's see.
And I'll fill out the paperwork.
We're just approving
I-
the installment agreement?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
approving an installment agreement.
I will make a motion to approve an installment agreement for sanitary sewer connection between Charter Township of Lyon and, what is the exact entity?
It's like
name?
Angela number six. Co-op.
Between,
Number 6 co-op.
yes, between Lyon Township and Lake Angela, co-op number 6,
I'll
as
support.
presented.
Want to put in the no admin fee?
Sure, that the recommendation is for no admin fee.
I'll support that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Cool. All right, moving on to Sterling Trail, formerly known as Belmont Park, special land use for an average lot size residential development in the R0.5 district. That you, Brian?
Thank you, John. In front of you this evening is a 46 single-family unit development on the west side of Pontiac Trail. This is 30 acres sandwiched between Saddle Creek and the city of South Lyon. So to the north we've got Saddle Creek, and to the south is Trotter's Point. The reason that this is in front of you is the average lot size mechanism requires special land use in this district, and what that means is that minimum lot areas may be reduced from the zoning ordinance standard of 17,000 square feet for the R0.5 district down to 15,000 square feet, with the balance being dedicated to open space for the residents. And in this form, there's two separate open spaces that are dedicated to recreation for the users. The other bonus to a developer is that lot sizes may be reduced in minimum width from 110 feet to 90 feet in width. In terms of review procedure, I want to note that this went through the Planning Commission known as Belmont Park, and so when we look back at records, they will refer to Belmont Park. It has been changed at the suggestion of Public Safety because there are several other Belmont-related nomenclatures used within the township and neighboring communities, and so the change to Sterling Trail was at the advisement of our public safety officials. In April, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the development where we heard several comments relating to through traffic to the north through Saddle Creek, where the connection lies in the northwest corner of the development. And we also heard comments from surrounding residents concerned about the impact of the development on stormwater management. The Planning Commission took no action in April, and the revised plans were brought back to the Planning Commission on June 10th. At that point in time, the Planning Commission approved the site plan conditional on special land use approval from the board, and they recommended special land use approval. And on special land use, of course, the Township Board is the final arbiter. In terms of a special land use, well, first let me take any questions you might have on the site plan or the layout or open space, anything along those lines from the board, before I go into special land use standards.
I had a question, and I had emailed you, and we talked a little bit just briefly earlier today regarding the parallel plan and its ability to show wetland, in particular regulated wetland, on lots that they're counting toward their overall net density. So I don't know, I mean, I count 7 lots that are encumbered in some way by regulated wetland, maybe 6 lots in one lot that has unregulated wetland, and I don't know, I didn't add up the square footage, but it's, you know, probably roughly the size of an entire lot, or close to it, worth of square footage, probably 13,000 square feet, give or take. So I just don't know how that plays in to the density. I mean, we might be, we're not talking about 10 lots here, but we might be talking about a lot or two. I don't know how we quantify that. I mean, the regulated wetland touches many lots, but if you're trying to just net out a number, I'm sure they could work around them and not necessarily lose 6 or 7 lots. But I mean, this is something that we recently addressed with ordinance amendments to kind of deal with, so we weren't counting wetland area into a lot calculation, because,
right,
you know, it either can't be filled, or if it's, yeah. I'll stop there. I'll let you continue, but I wanted to bring that up.
No, I think it's a good point, and as I calculated it, the regulated wetland fill on that parallel plan is just over 12,000 square feet, 12,144, if my memory serves. And then there's a portion of one of the lots that's got non-regulated wetland on it. And I've asked the applicants to be able to provide that number, so when they step up, they may be able to answer that. So, but your comment is well taken. The average lot size mechanism is not intended to add density to a site, so what the parallel plan shows should be what we see on the final development plans. And in this case, it is.
Brian, I had a question too that's kind of a site plan and also special land use related, because it applies to what you're going to say is criteria number 5. But upon visiting the site down there, I noticed that the Trotters Point neighborhood, which is to the south, has a boardwalk that extends to their property limits, basically this development's southern line, and just wanted to get clarification on the connection, if there will be a connection to that boardwalk, which would allow for a continuous route from this potential neighborhood to, you know, through Trotters Point and actually over to the high school.
Yeah, there will be a connection. On one of the original drafts, it was not shown, but the Planning Commission revised that and encouraged that connection. So, no?
No, the Planning Commission required it to be limits of this project, not a connection into the city of South Lyon.
Correct, to the south.
The initial submittals didn't have the pathway to the south property line of this development along the frontage, or it was discussed. The Planning Commission's direction is that they wanted it there so that it could be connected at some point in the future. That was my recollection.
Well, yeah, I may have misunderstood the question, but I agree.
The confusing part is the boardwalk's not shown on their survey, so I'm just going based on when I went out to the property to look at it. There's a boardwalk that extends out to Pontiac Trail from the end of the northern cul-de-sac, but it's not on the survey. That's why I asked the question if there was going to be a connection there.
I didn't think the boardwalk went all the way to the north property line of Trotters Point. No.
It's
private property also.
It doesn't, Chris, because we already discussed this at the planning commission, so we can't put it on somebody else's property.
It looks pretty close. I mean, I guess it's not even on the survey, so it's hard to tell
It's not.
that it's that it's there, but looking at aerial photos on the cover sheet, it looks like it's right there. That's the only part that you can kind of see it.
But we did request it to the end of their property.
Okay, you any more questions before you continue?
No, it's-
Okay, Brian, go ahead and continue.
Okay. As with any of our special land uses in the township, there are 9 standards required to be met to consider a special land use. The first is compatibility with adjacent uses. I noted Saddle Creek to the north and Trotter's Point to the south, both single-family residential properties, so this fits right in with that. It is compatible with our master plan and zoning ordinance for single-family residential C, which corresponds with our R 0.5 zoning. So we believe that this will further our objectives of the master plan. Public services, this development will connect to water and sewer, and so I'll save specific comments for Leslie if she has those. In terms of an impact on traffic, this is a small enough development where no traffic impact study is required. We're estimating about 460 anticipated trips as a result of this. And for a frame of reference, Pontiac Trail handles just under 15,000 vehicle trips per day in both directions. We don't anticipate any detrimental effects. This is single-family residential. It's pretty low impact. We're not isolating existing uses. We continue to get additional requests for single-family development in the township. So from what we're hearing from developers, there is a need that continues to be met by these new single-family housing projects. We don't anticipate any negative economic well-being on the community, on adjacent property owners. And in terms of compatibility with the natural environment, you mentioned, or we talked about the regulated wetland fill of about 1/4 of an acre for the parallel plan, but the actual development plan will fill 0.06 acres of regulated wetland. And of course, regulated trees that are being removed will be replaced in accordance with our tree preservation standards. Given the Planning Commission's recommendation, we support their findings, and we would recommend approval of the special land use for average lot sizing here as well.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Bill. Let me go to Leslie. Leslie, any,
The only
anything to
item,
add?
the only item that I wanted to bring to your attention is the engineering standards, and I believe it's actually under your utility ordinance as well, would require that the perimeter water main be extended to the southern property line. I'm not sure if that's necessary since South Lyon is to the south of you, but I bring this up for your discussion. If you wanted to waive that requirement, we would note that, and but if you wanted it extended to your southern border for eventual emergency connection, that's, I would just need to know how you wanted to proceed with that item.
Okay, so you wanna, the applicant, would the applicant like to come on up, and I think there'll probably be a few questions for you. You wanna come on up, introduce yourself?
Good evening. Can I pass these out as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Greg Winningland with Lombardo Homes. I appreciate your time tonight, and it's a pleasure to be before you guys again. In light of your meeting has gone maybe a little longer than normal, I did have a full presentation. If it's okay with you guys, I'll skip through some of the stuff that you probably already know. and be glad to go back through some of it. As has been discussed already, we're here asking for special land use approval for Sterling Trail. I always do like to have an agenda just to make the most efficient use of your time as well as mine. Introductions, Lombardo Companies instead of Lombardo Homes. We've had a few changes in that. Maybe we'll save that to another meeting. The subject land and our request, previous meetings that we've had, concerns of our neighbors and township consultants that we think we've done a very good job of listening and addressing those. The actual site plan that, as was mentioned, was approved by the Planning Commission. And then the quality of our overall proposed development. And of course, I'd be available for any questions. So introductions, I won't go through all of them. I'll just point out that Pat Keast, our engineer, is here with me tonight if we have any questions. The other thing on the left side of the screen, the Lombardo Companies contacts, you'll note that we provide our email and our cell phone number as always. Anthony's policy is for us to be available. We don't want you going through a switchboard or anything else. We want you to be able to get a hold of us, so we provide our cell phone numbers as well. Lombardo Companies, again, we've had some changes, I think, since the last time I made a presentation to you guys in light of the time tonight. Maybe we'll skip that and save it for another meeting. So Lombardo and Lyon Township, as you guys know, we have a very good presence in Lyon Township. We think we've been a very good neighbor in the community. I won't go through and name all the sites, but we have several sites in the community active and upcoming. So the land and our request, I'll just highlight some of this. It's somewhat been discussed, the size, the location, and so on. As the engineer mentioned, it's interesting on the water main. If you want it extended south, we can do that. We would rather not do it simply because of the cost. If the board deems that that's necessary, certainly we will do that. You have the city of South Lyon not only immediately to the south of us, but also across Pontiac Trail on the east side. So other than perhaps a future emergency connection at some point, there may not be a need for that. And I don't have any idea what South Lyon's intentions would be. I don't believe they have a water main in that area.
They don't.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't.
Pat's, they don't, okay. And again, as I mentioned, our special land use request for the average lot size, the site plan was approved at the June 10th Planning Commission meeting. So our previous meetings in December of last year, we had scheduled a meeting here to use the township facilities, and we had a little scheduling mix-up, so we weren't able to get in. So we stood outside in the cold, we talked for a little while, but we got a lot of good feedback from our residents. And then on December 19th, we rescheduled that meeting. We had it here. We had 12 residents show up. 6 were from Trotter's Point in the city of South Lyon, and 6 were from Saddle Creek. We listened to their comments. Then on February 5th, I met with the 5 board members for the Saddle Creek Association, met with them at one of their homes, as well as their managing agent, who is also the managing agent for Trotter's Point, Dennis Nagy. He's Saddle Creek and Trotter's Point managing agent for their homeowners association. And March 7th, we had the pre-application meeting here with the township, and we heard concerns of the township consultants. And then April 22nd, the Planning Commission, we were tabled for a few issues, as was mentioned earlier. June 10th, the Planning Commission was approved, and I was not at that meeting, but I think we even had a compliment that we had done a good job listening to residents, and we had kind of followed the process of, we came here, we heard comments, we went back and fixed them, and we came back and we had addressed them. The other thing I just wanted to point out as far as listening to the residents, the invitation to the very first meeting is the color slide that you see in the center. You'll see that we had one road connection to Saddle Creek only. We had our stormwater basin located at the south end of the property, and our intention, we also were going to call it Saddle Creek South to basically continue the Saddle Creek name and image that we had created with that. The residents of Saddle Creek were concerned about the traffic that this community would generate going through their community, and they were concerned that the name Saddle Creek South would imply a connection to Saddle Creek and possibly a connection to using their pool facility, their playground facility, things like that. So that's when we changed it to Belmont Park. The second one that you see, you can see that we came in with only the connection to Pontiac Trail and no connection to Saddle Creek, trying to respect the wishes of the Saddle Creek residents, and your two professional consultants both said, and I'm not saying this out of school, both said we will not support a plan that doesn't have both connections. From an engineering standpoint, from a planning standpoint, and so on, it does make sense to do that. So, but you'll see we had relocated the stormwater basin to the northwest area of our property. So the concerns we heard, some of them were somewhat conflicting as far as do we connect, do we not connect, do we do both connections, whatever, that was resolved. The name of Saddle Creek I mentioned, the loss of the screening trees, I'll show you that in just a moment. I think we did a very good job of trying to not only preserve existing screening, but supplement that. And location of the stormwater basin, we didn't want to make the flooding that the Trotters Point folks to your south already exist in the spring. We didn't want to make that any worse. So again, it just made sense for us to move the basin. We've actually been able to take one other measure to hopefully help them. The pathway, the water main, and the sanitary sewer were all questions early on that have been resolved. In the quality of the proposed community, I'll address that in one moment. So based on the comments prior to going to the Planning Commission meeting, these were several of the changes that we made based on just feedback from your professional consultants as well as the residents of Saddle Creek and Trotters Point. We supplemented existing trees. We had relocated the basin, tree preservation along both the north and the west property line. We provided some headlight screening. There was a gentleman in Trotters Point that was concerned about headlight wash from our east-west street there, so we provided some headlight screening to buffer him. We agreed to include language in our purchase agreement to our customers that specifically has them acknowledge that they do not have rights to use the Saddle Creek swimming pool facility or playscape without being invited there by the guests. Now that the name change is totally different, that may not be as significant, but again, we're certainly willing to do that. We provided some additional trees to the south to help with some screening for the Trotters Point community, and we renamed it to Belmont Park, as I mentioned. So then after the Planning Commission meeting of April, we added rear yard storm sewer along our north property line. We did a little further definition of Lot 15's side yard lot line and dimensioned it. We added a proposed drainage pipe between the existing flooded area to the south out to the Pontiac Trail ditch line. And that we think will additionally, or provide additional relief for the folks to the south. And we increased the setbacks for a couple of the lots adjacent to a small open space. The quality of our proposed community, it will be the same lineup as what is in Saddle Creek. We've done very good in Saddle Creek as far as price stabilization, price appreciation. We've had a very good track record of home appreciation there. This is the base price that we have on our homes with options, site premiums, so on and so forth. Transaction prices are usually anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 higher than what you see on here. As far as homes in Saddle Creek, the last 10 homes that we've sold have averaged $478,000. The maximum to date is $562,000. I know the Dow was down today, but assuming the economy can continue to progress as the way it is, we see that Sterling Trail should see that success or greater by the time we get to it, just in the natural appreciation of home values. As far as a direct comparison between the two, Sterling Trail, the typical lot size is 90 by 167 feet. At Saddle Creek, it's 90 by 130. So Sterling Trail will have a little bit deeper lot, about 30 feet deeper. The minimum square footage is 15,000 in Sterling Trail and a little under 12,000 in Saddle Creek. In Sterling Trail, we're providing 21% of open space, and in Saddle Creek, there's 26%, so it's very comparable. That was the Reader's Digest version. The one other question that I would address is Mr. O'Neill had asked about the wetland and so on. Our unregulated wetland is around 6,200 square feet on the project. So if I can answer any questions, I'd like to.
And Brian, you said regulated was 12,000?
Just over 12, yeah.
So how do we deal with that? It wasn't discussed at the planning commission, but it's a requirement to not count that toward the density, right?
Well, isn't that just in the plan development regulation?
I don't know, I think it deals with parallel plans, when parallel plans are provided, right?
Can-
I
It's a
don't think
Parallel
so.
plan requirement?
Because I looked this up when we reviewed it, and I think it's only in the plan development requirement.
Well, that's pretty unfortunate, because I think the goal when we amended it a year or so ago was to deal with all parallel plans, not to pick and choose which one. So that was a huge oversight if that was how the ordinance was truly amended in the end. Not that we see too many of these, but I think we need to fix it tomorrow.
I try to be recommended.
Go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, the parallel plan for this was not required by the ordinance. I think it was something that was asked for, and we did kind of to help, I guess, relate the density, but it was my understanding that for what we're pursuing, a parallel plan wasn't actually required, and that's kind of the domino effect that backs into what we're talking about.
I think that, I would agree with Sean in that, if Leslie said that was in the plan development ordinance, I had not, I guess I was in agreement with Sean that in trying to establish density, whether it's through a PD or providing a parallel plan, but, whenever we start talking about density, it's important to make sure that we have the correct density. So even though this is not a PD, the purpose of this development option is so that you are not trying to achieve a higher density development. So I would agree with Sean that we really kind of need to know the density for sure, and I don't want wetlands to be overlooked in that calculation. So I'd like to see that in some way addressed on our end.
I think, Brian, you said that initially, that the goal of an average lot size plan wasn't to achieve greater density than you could otherwise. And so I don't know where that leaves us, because if we're in a gray area and the intent was to deal with all parallel plans, and I don't know how we achieve, I understand what you're saying, Greg. What I'm saying is I don't know how we achieve the average lot size plan without providing a parallel plan. I don't know how we get there without, the parallel plan's sort of like my go-to vehicle to see how things lay out, but.
My thinking is that the planning commission, we're here to do the special land use.
Which
not redesign his.
Yeah, but what sure, John, but the site plan attaches to the special land use, and I think it's important when you're trying to determine the impact. The whole purpose of the special land use process is to mitigate any unwanted or unnecessary or burdensome impacts. So that's, if I'm talking about one lot here, but whether it's one lot or 100, our job is to look at all this stuff. The site plan is going to come to us, right?
No, it won't. The planning commission is the recommending body,
Because it's not. Okay.
But the planning commission is the approval body, but their approval is conditioned on the special land use. So, your point is well taken, Sean, that whatever decision you make on a special land use directly impacts that site plan approval.
So I don't want to re-evaluate the whole site plan. I get that. But I think that's one thing that wasn't.
This is a very, very small piece of property, though. Are we talking about, we're only talking about 6,200 square feet? Is that what we're
Well,
talking about?
I was going to, may I?
Go ahead. Yes, please.
I was just going to say, I think you made the comment, if you don't fix it tonight, you need to right away or whatever. I guess that was the.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Trying to choose my words carefully, it seems like it might be somewhat unfair for me to have gone through consultant review and gone through the planning commission and get their approval on the site plan, and then to take a step back and have to possibly demonstrate something that might not be required by ordinance as far as the test plan. With that, I'd like to ask Pat, because I think he understands the numbers a little better than I do, to explain, even if we do go to the test plan and the calculations with the wetland, I think from what we were talking on the phone, we've still got it covered. So if you'll allow me, I'll let Pat speak to that maybe.
Sure.
Pat Keast with Seaver Keast Engineering. So when we looked at this, and it did say in the, under the average lot size, the residential density needed to not exceed the underlying zoning, but it didn't point to the parallel plan. But we did look at the definition that's contained in Article 7, Plan Development, to accomplish that. And in that, it describes that the parallel plan shall reflect a realistic assessment of wetland use, considering constraints imposed by MDEQ and US EPA. And the fact that this area, 6,000 square feet, is not regulated, we didn't count that. And we counted all the remaining 3.5 acres, and the part that we filled was, and the parallel plan was 12,000, which was well under the 17,000 that was permitted. So non-regulated wetland was never a consideration in calculating the underlying density or calculating the fill. We only counted the regulated.
Right, and that's not my concern either. It's the regulated wetland, which is twice the size of the unregulated wetland.
Right, it's 12,000. And I think under the R 0.5, the permitted fill is the minimum lot size under R 0.5, which is 17,000. We tried to follow the technical part of the ordinance as it was recently changed to limit the amount of wetland fill on a parallel plan, and that's what that's the way it reads under the plan development, and that's what we designed the plan for. Even though it really wasn't required technically, I guess, but we understand the intent and the recent changes under plan development, that intent would be employed by the consultants and the Planning Commission in judging whether or not the underlying density is reasonable.
Well, and to Greg's point, I understand that if this isn't something that was called out previously in reviews, then, I question the fairness of pushing it out. If it's not, if we've got some housekeeping to do, then we do.
Okay. Well, let's move forward. Anybody got any questions for Greg? All right, somebody want to make a
I'm sorry,
motion?
John, I do
Go
have
ahead.
one. I guess I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to go back to just my question about the boardwalk to
Yes.
Trotter's Point and why it wasn't on the survey, or how I'm having trouble figuring out where this thing is. It wasn't surveyed, and if there's a possibility to have a connection. That just looking up an aerial photo on Google Maps, it looks like it is right at the northern border of Trotter's Point. And
See, I don't see it on my,
Yeah.
on Google Earth.
In this,
it's on Google Maps. You can.
Technical Google Earth.
But I mean, if it met your property line, you would connect it.
if it abutted our property line, I think we would have no choice but to
Yeah,
connect
you
to
would
it,
connect.
and that would make sense. The boardwalk is private property to Trotter's Point. It's not a public facility that we can connect to. It's my understanding it's in some pretty significant disrepair as well. I don't have the easement ability to go on their property and connect to it. We did extend, as was a recommendation prior, we did extend the proposed pathway along Pontiac Trail to our south property line. Originally, we had shown to terminate that further to the north, but we did extend that down to the south, so there may be an opportunity in the future to get a pathway along the rest of Pontiac Trail.
Well, that might be a grant opportunity.
I believe you mentioned that,
We
yes.
mentioned this, Chris, we talked about this extensively at the Planning Commission. And we felt the same way. I mean, I think the Planning Commission does their job. And that could be maybe a partnership with the city and us to fix that. That boardwalk is in horrible disrepair. If you go down there, I went down and looked at it. So that's something that they didn't take care of their end, or don't want to put up the money, or their association doesn't want to do it, or the city doesn't want to do it. But we were very adamant about it going to the end of the property line. And maybe that's something we can work with the city to apply for a grant to get it down there. Because we, of course, those subdivisions might wanna walk to the high school, or over to the shopping complex, or for a football game, or anything like that. So we talked extensively about it, but it's not in Lyon Township. So I don't know how do we fix a bike path that's in the city?
It wasn't even fixing it, it's just the fact that it's not even shown and on their plans. I mean,
Are you sure
So I
it's
don't
within
know.
100 feet of their property, though? I don't see it on
I don't-
anything.
It's right.
it is right
there.
at the northern, I mean, the end of that cul-de-sac, if you go straight east on the aerial photo, you can see it.
But again, if it
I don't
was
know, I
sitting
mean-
there, wouldn't he
Right there.
connect it
That's what that
automatically
is?
if it was that
Mhm.
close?
Yeah.
I
I don't
mean,
think
Then
so.
it does.
I mean, if it,
I'm sorry.
if the path was that close, I mean, you would probably connect it. I mean, why, there'd have
Yeah,
to be a large gap between them.
I believe there is.
And see, we don't know
Okay.
that, so.
I gotcha.
John, I'll have some additional comments after the,
You can talk. It's
well, I don't
open.
know if we're done with
Chris
the-
is still going. Go ahead, Chris, keep going.
I'm okay.
Are
Go
you
ahead.
good? Go ahead.
First of all, I'm pleased that you did talk to the neighbors and you had so many, meeting opportunities with, and, I like that you're screening and you have additional trees to, deal with the headlight glare and tree preservation, and I do like the larger, deeper lots. And this is not so much a comment about the site plan, but it's more about your project meeting the intent of the zoning ordinance. So my first comment is that, in the ordinance 19.03B1, the intent, item D says that this is to be used to encourage ingenuity and originality in the total site design. And when I look at this, it has a very grid-like road network that does not really seem original, clever, nor inventive. And I don't believe that it really meets with the intent of that zoning ordinance, because I don't really see the originality or the ingenuity in the site design. Additionally, item E says that it would provide for adequate usable open space, tree cover, and recreation areas, as well as scenic vistas. And I don't think that this site that you've provided really does meet with that intent. It doesn't really seem to provide much usable open space or recreation areas. It's, these little parcels seem to be shoehorned into spots that really couldn't be built on because of regulated wetlands or the headlight glare of the boulevard entrance. I don't really see much of a scenic vista, and I recognize that the planners have told you that it would have to connect to Saddle Creek. I've had this discussion with Chris and with Sean. I am one who is concerned about connectivity in that sense, about the potential of creating cut-through traffic. I'm not sure if something this size would really be that much, but I don't really know for sure what kind of cut-through traffic, what the purpose would be to that, but I did see in the minutes somewhere that somebody had a concern about that, and I just wanted to address that. And in reference to Leslie's comment, I do understand that South Line is immediately to the south, and so if you were not going to provide the perimeter water main across the entire frontage, which is a requirement, I would request at least a financial contribution in that amount, or slightly less, perhaps, to the sidewalk or pathway fund, because we keep on dealing with this issue of a boardwalk, which is either all on, South Line's property or private property. We're still kind of trying to locate it. But I've continued to request ways for people in our subdivisions to get to the high school. And I know at one point we talked about a mid-block crosswalk. I just see that the reality is to bring the water main across the entire frontage seems really not, and yes, it's a requirement, it doesn't seem to benefit anybody within the township
Correct.
by doing so. But it's almost as if we were to find a way then to say, well, if we're gonna say you don't have to do that thing that is required, is there something that can benefit the residents of this? And I think having some way to cross safely Pontiac Trail to get to, what is that, Carriage Trace? That subdivision across?
Yeah.
I mean, people cross there all the time, with or without a crosswalk, and it's incredibly dangerous.
You're talking from Saddle Creek, though?
Yes, from that
Okay.
overall general
Okay.
area, that, like, there are lots of subdivisions that are right there, and people will find a way to cross Pontiac Trail with or without a crosswalk. And so I find that, you know, a contribution, instead of having to provide water to nowhere, maybe we can help solve the sidewalks to nowhere by, you know, providing some kind of contribution or perhaps a crosswalk in that vicinity, so seems to be more of a benefit. Those are my comments.
Okay. Would you be open for that? To put some money towards the sidewalk fund to eliminate the water main across the front?
Not that it's any of my business, I guess, but can
I'm
you
just
do
asking
that
if
with
you'd
an
be open.
enterprise fund and put that money that's designated for water main? Can you put it to some other purpose? I don't know.
It wouldn't be designated for water main.
Okay.
They'd be waiving that requirement and placing a condition on the special land use of the contribution for the sidewalk.
Okay. So as a condition of approval, it would be subject to your consulting
Although
engineer
it's
agreeing
not-
with Pat on a number of what that would be?
Yeah, but I'm not putting it as, it's part of the ordinance, so it is required. We're just, instead of putting, like Lee said, water main to nowhere.
Didn't we do that at 8 in Griswold? Didn't
I'm
we
just-
waive
I'm asking
something
if-
to?
No,
That's all I'm asking.
no, I guess what I'm saying is I'm agreeable to doing it. I would rather do it as a condition of approval than be tabled and have to come back to resolve it, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, I got
I
that.
think that's what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Yes, we would be agreeable to do that.
okay.
And Leslie, you're comfortable with arriving at that agreed upon number with?
But usually I do the number.
Right.
But sure.
And for what it's worth, I mean, if there were ever a situation where we needed to connect to the city's water system or vice versa, it looks like at the end of the cul-de-sac in this project, there probably could be an opportunity to extend in the future.
Probably much cheaper. It may only be an 8-inch water main at the end of that cul-de-sac, but it would still
Right.
serve as an emergency connection.
So now you're moving more toward the ingenuity and originality.
There you go.
benchmark. So I'm just letting you know where my,
And I would say that
Finish line.
I would think that it would be appropriate to put a condition that if there is a boardwalk that is there, we determine that it should be connected. And if it's in disrepair, that's the city's problem, not ours. I'm not using our dollars to fix up the boardwalk. That's not our responsibility.
Can
So,
can the condition be that I am not obligated to obtain easements or negotiate? That seems like I'm kind of over a barrel if I'm obligated to pursue easements in another community, in another subdivision, as a condition of my approval here. That seems very difficult.
Aren't you saying that if in fact the boardwalk reaches his
Correct.
property line?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Absolutely. No objection.
what if it's just a few feet short?
Still
Okay, just,
around,
well, I'm
yeah.
just checking, yeah.
Well,
We'll
I
have to
guess
work
if it's
it
in
out.
the,
Sounds like it
if
needs
it's
to
in
be
the right
fixed
of
up
way.
by somebody else before it can even be used
I guess,
safely.
Mr. Dolan, one other thing, that boardwalk doesn't go south, it goes into
Correct.
Trotter's
Correct.
Point, so it
Which
doesn't,
has- Which has sidewalks, though.
right.
Believe me, they love cutting through Saddle Creek like 500 times a day at 40 miles an hour. So they can help us get our pedestrians through much slower and at a lower,
Yep.
lesser amount than.
Maybe connectivity isn't so great right there, huh?
Well, they objected to it, but they're sure enjoying it now.
All right, well, I mean, it sounds like you're willing to do a few things for us here. And somebody'd like to try to put a motion together?
I think John started about a half hour ago. We can let him continue.
No, thanks.
I think Sean should make this motion.
I'm resting for later.
Well, basically, what, the motion is going to be to approve this and with conditions of the boardwalk attaching, if it's close enough, make, right, hitting the northern border. And that you're going to put a fund estimated by Leslie, Pat, for the water main, in lieu of the water main. Is
You're
that
gonna
so?
waive the ordinance requirement to run it along the entire frontage.
In lieu.
And
Putting money
then the
towards it.
next condition would be, you know, that they would make a contribution to the township sidewalk fund, you know, in lieu of the extension of the water main in an amount to be determined by the township engineer, equivalent to the cost of the water main.
Sounds like John.
Something
You might
like
have made a
that.
John, did you just make that motion?
If I'm able to, sure.
Not you, the other John.
No.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Can I just add to your motion that, just for the record, that the reason that the water main extension's being waived is because it does not lead to any other properties in our community and would serve no viable purpose?
I would add that.
Okay,
Still
just for the
second that?
record.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's call this by roll.
Patricia Carpenter?
Yes.
Michelle Cash?
Yes.
Christopher Brendlow?
Yes.
John Hicks?
Yes.
Lisa Blades?
Yes.
Sean O'Neill?
Yes.
John Dolan?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on. Action Sports and Community Center Special Land Use. All right, you're going to start this one out again, Brian?
I will. Our second land use, special land use for consideration this evening is for Action Sports and Community Center. This is located at 23333 Griswold Road, on the west side of the road between 9 and 10 Mile. This is the old Duncan disposal facility, and if you recall, in 2018, there was a special land use issued for the east portion of the building for Slara and Matt Cats. Recreational facilities, indoor recreational facilities are permitted by special land use in the I-2 district where this facility lies. The specific proposal is to convert approximately 19,000 square feet of the warehouse area in the western part of the building to an indoor recreational facility for things like basketball, batting cages, volleyball, or a broad array of uses that are not specifically listed. Within the facility today, in addition to Slara and Matt Cats, there are 3 permitted industrial use tenants. They are American Door and Glass, Case Concepts, and Grime Stoppers. So we have conducted zoning reviews on all of those, and they're approved pending the outcome of tonight's decision. In terms of review procedures, the public hearing for this use was held by the Planning Commission in January of 2019, January 14th to be specific, at which time the Planning Commission recommended approval of the special land use conditioned upon approval of a site plan. There have been several additional reviews by the Planning Commission, the first on May 13th, and then the second on June 24th, and it was during that June 24th meeting when the Planning Commission approved the site plan, which would complete the conditions, with a condition that special land use be approved by the Township Board. Any questions on this particular site plan or just in general the uses that are proposed?
No, I think this use for this facility is great. It's better than an industrial use and is needed in the community, so I'd rather see it used in this manner than in the manner that the underlying zoning would otherwise allow for.
Yeah, and to that point, the master plan, it's mentioned later in the letter, but the master plan hopes to slowly transition from these intense industrial uses to things that are more supportive or more compatible with adjacent residential uses. So, our memo notes that a temporary use was approved in January for the facility to get started. Several conditions were imposed as part of that approval, and that 6-month period of temporary use expired in July. So therefore, we recommend that any consideration of approval for the use tonight would be conditioned upon satisfactory approvals by the building official and public safety officials. In terms of the review standards, compatibility with adjacent uses, so there really are a lot of industrial users along the west side of Griswold Road, but we find that these are becoming more and more prevalent, not necessarily in the township, but statewide, where these large open expanses of buildings can be converted to quality of life type uses for residents. In terms of public services, the facility today is on well and septic. However, water service is required to get capacity for the fire suppression system that's required. In terms of an impact on traffic, this facility should have significantly less traffic impacts than an anticipated industrial user. Although it may have some higher peaks than an industrial use, particularly in the afternoon, overall the impacts should be much less. In terms of detrimental effects, we do not find that this is going to have a detrimental effect on surrounding property owners or anything along those lines. However, the review does note that indoor recreational facilities per the ordinance allow for a broad range of things, and the ordinance specifically calls out indoor archery as a permittable use under the special land use. We note that while it can be included under that umbrella, those types of facilities, given the adjacent users and Slara and Matt Cats being in other portions of this facility, we would recommend that we either exclude an indoor archery from a permitted use in the area, or come back for additional review, either administrative or by the Planning Commission, to ensure that there's not going to be any impacts, or if there are additional actual building requirements for safety walls or things like that associated with those uses, they get reviewed at that time, if that ever comes to fruition. In terms of need, Sean, you hit on indoor recreational space, and recreational space in general is at a premium, and we do regularly hear comments from people interested in creating recreational uses, including some of the properties that are adjacent to this, maybe not indoor but outdoor as well. So we know that recreational needs are important. We don't find that it would have a negative economic impact on the community. This is moving towards master plan goals of decreasing intensity of use here. And in terms of compatibility with the natural environment, it's reuse of the facility. Landscape improvements have already been made as part of the Slara and Matt Cats. And then we know that the parking lot has been upgraded recently and other things. So we don't find that the natural environment will be impacted by this. So in terms of recommendation, we noted before that the Planning Commission has already recommended approval of the special land use. They have approved the site plan recently, and we suggest just a couple conditions. The first, that the fire suppression and other public safety concerns of the building official and fire marshal be addressed to their satisfaction prior to occupancy, and that indoor archery activities or similar be excluded from the approved indoor recreation land use until additional review could happen if that is proposed in the future. Any questions?
Any questions?
So they, just for clarity, they are not proposing indoor archery?
They're not as
Okay.
of today.
And you mentioned archery. Are firearms indoor, like ranges, are they part of this possible?
They're not specifically called out as part of that indoor recreational facilities.
Okay.
But you might want to.
Yeah, I mean, it may be worth
Right.
noting.
And what would a normal capacity for recreation be, or is that determined by safety code?
I believe that's a building code or fire code issue.
Do we know that? Or is
We
it-
know that the zoning ordinance won't set the occupancy for the building.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Leslie, you want to add anything to this?
I just want to reference my July 26th review letter, which just has some water main items, nothing significant, but just as a reference. The applicant did submit their first round of engineering plans a week ago Friday, and that first review just went out today. So we have a couple items to address on the plans, and then they'll be forwarded to DEQ permitting.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Or
right,
Eagle
applicants
now.
here, you want to come on up? Okay, I would like to start really quick by first of all saying, I don't think anyone at this table is against the use that you have there, not one.
Good.
But I do know that we are concerned about the safety of the building, and that's our biggest concern. I'm gonna let you know that right up front, that's my concern.
Sure. And
Okay.
I really wasn't going to address that tonight.
But we have to. So basically, I would like to, first of all, you can go ahead and state your name and address and.
Name is Scott Duncan. Address is 1276 Buckboard Circle, South Lyon, Michigan.
Okay, now do you want to start by saying something? Is that what you'd like to do?
No, I don't know
Okay.
what your reference was to or
Okay,
whatever.
so first of
I
all-
agree. Safety is good.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to get, is anybody here at the board got any questions for Mr. Duncan? Anyone? Before we move this thing forward? Okay, I would like to say one thing. I would like to know, are you willing to get this building fire suppressed before you continue?
John, we've never, ever told anybody that we weren't going to fire suppress the building. Never. Have we
No,
indicated
I'm
that?
not saying that. I'm asking,
That's-
are you willing to
you're
do that
asking
before
it,
we
so I'm
allow?
assuming that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%.
What's
But,
that?
yeah, but I mean, yes, that's what we're waiting for. We've been
Okay.
waiting for
And,
it,
and we would like that.
for sure.
How long do you think it's going to take to get the fire suppression into the building? I mean, how long is that? Is that a long process? Is that?
It looks like about 3 months. So, you know, it can vary depending on what construction
I think
times.
permitting alone, you're at 6 weeks, probably by the time the boss revises the plans, get them in, send to Eagle for permit. I think you're probably 6 to 8 weeks, and then whenever you have a contractor available to actually do the construction. But once you have the Eagle permit, then it's just working through the township.
And construction can go forward, though, before some of the longer permits.
No, you have to
take
have the
place
Eagle 399 permit by state law to install it.
To install the actual
The
system.
Eagle is the new DE state law before you can actually install new water main.
Oh, yeah, I got you. But like internal construction and that type of stuff.
That would be through the building department, whatever they would allow.
So.
Okay,
John, I have a couple questions.
okay.
So I just wanted to confirm that there would be a connection to township sewer and water. That's
Water.
Or water.
Yeah, sewer is not proposed, a sewer
Okay.
connection.
And what would your capacity limit be for this project?
What would my capacity limit be?
Right.
That is dependent, I thought, on building and parking lot and all that type of stuff. What would my, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think it's determined
Set
yet.
by the
I
chief.
mean-
I think the chief sets that.
Oh, it's fire?
I don't think it'd be determined after, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
what-
you want to put 500 people in there, 300 people, 60 people?
Well, not, yeah, yes.
Okay, well,
As
that's-
many as possible, and I mean, in that, it depends on, right, I mean, I wouldn't want to hamstring myself and say 200 people if there's the ability or need to have 400 people in there. But I don't, that's a requirement that the township determines and fire determines, and I don't think that's determined until after suppression would be installed and building would go through, but I'm not an expert in any of that, so.
And what would your hours of operation be?
6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That would all be on basis of, you know, what classes come in, what kind of organizations are utilizing it, that type of stuff.
Is that a normal hours of operation for a recreation facility? Do we have?
Well, if you can think of 6 a.m. class for fitness, and then a lot of times there's a gap during the day where if they don't have anything scheduled, they may even shut down. And then after school, of course, that's when things get rolling, and then even on the weekends and weekdays, you know, there's typically an adult session that comes in at 9, 10 o'clock and might play some pickup basketball and that type of stuff. So it's very,
Does our
you know.
township have
We've got a noise ordinance, but I don't believe that we have hours of operation limits.
okay. And then I guess this might be a question for, I don't know, just who it's for. It could be you, or it could be Carol. Or maybe it's our building official. Do these suppression requirements have to be met for any use of this facility, or is it just for this special land use?
Well, Dave, do you want to answer that? It's based on the size of the building.
Any use at all?
Square footage of the building
Yeah.
that triggers it.
So I guess my point in that is, if you're waiting to suppress the building to see if you are granted special land use, you would need to.
I may not own the building after that, if that's the case.
Right, my point is that you said the reason you haven't done suppression yet is that you're waiting for approval of this.
Yeah, because I found out about the suppression in April. Now, they have had the building occupied since January of last year with Southline Rec. So they said nothing to me about fire suppression then. They approved our site plan, they let occupants in that building, and they said nothing about suppression.
Isn't that a
And
different part of the
MACAT,
building?
so, yeah, it's part of the building.
It's a different
this-
part. It's
No, it's the
separated
same
by a
building.
hallway.
It's the same building. It's, I mean, in terms of code, it should have been caught a year and a half ago and brought to our attention. I may not have even started this project if that were the case. I may have sold the building right away. But now, where.
What difference
once-
does it make when it's caught? It's the safety of the people in the building, so now that we.
Well, because obviously it was safe enough then, but
It was
now
never
that.
safe enough.
Well,
No, wait, just because there wasn't a fire doesn't mean it was safe, okay?
I'm assuming they
Well,
allowed,
wait,
I'm
wait,
assuming they
don't-
didn't make a mistake.
Look at, I have to say this because I know you've been aware since at least January. Part of the reason you were
Not
given
true.
the 6 months was to get this done.
Not true, not true.
Well,
That's not true. They
It is
did
true.
not say anything until an April meeting that you were at, John.
Yeah, I
You
was at-
saw
I
it.
was
He
at the
opened the book in
meetings.
April and said, oh, geez, everything in A3 has to be, or everything in assembly has to be assembled, or it has to be suppressed.
But
And
it comes down to square footage in the code. It's not anything to
I'm
do
not
about
arguing,
assembly.
I'm not arguing, John, the fact that it should be suppressed. I'm arguing the fact that a year and a half ago, this whole process happened with a township entity, Southline Rec. Nothing was said about suppression, okay? Let's fast forward a year and a half, or a year, okay, if it was mentioned in April, when a private citizen is trying to put his business in there. It's now mentioned a $250,000 project.
But that is not the way it
That,
went.
I'm just telling you the timeline, John. I'm not saying that it was intentional. I'm just telling you how it happened. And so
recall
listen,
that.
so I was told in
I just
April.
wanted to talk to John for a second, please.
Go ahead.
The Mad Cats came first.
The Mad Cats came in first with Southline Area Rec, and that wasn't,
Second.
right, but that wasn't for this portion of the building, was
It's
it?
the front
The whole
portion.
building's
So
on the
that's a completely different piece of property according to, or not property, I'm sorry, a different building according to my recollection. And so I just wanted to clarify, was the Mad Cat facility, was it within, it's not the same place, is it? I mean, it's
Yes.
the same property, but it's not the same
Yes,
building.
it is. It's all connected.
Is it, I guess I would just like clarification because
It's-
I
it's
thought it was.
separated by hallway.
I would too.
It's separated by a hallway, an exterior hallway that connects the two buildings.
So the Matt Katz facility was within, was and is within,
Not true.
I'm talking to the building official now.
I don't care, he's wrong.
The Matt Cat and Southline Area Rec facility was and still is in compliance with code, is that correct?
With the hall, the way this is connected with the hallway, that is one building. Their plan for fire suppression is to separate that with a 10-foot separation. So fire suppression was not ever talked about when Mad Cats and Solera came in.
Because they were not gonna use that back portion.
Or at the time, they were not used.
Okay, so thank you for the clarification.
That is not the case. That, right now, as it exists today,
You know-
that front part is the same as the back part.
Look at-
It's one building.
Look at-
So I'm just not gonna have lies put out here. I'm not even arguing a point
You're
with
being your own worst
this.
enemy right now,
I'm not
okay?
doing
We have to
anything.
move beyond this, because
I
the fact
totally
is, the
agree. I didn't wanna
building
put it
has to
up.
be suppressed.
Absolutely, 100%. I will
We
do
all
it.
agree it has to be suppressed.
Totally.
And
Totally.
that has to be done ASAP.
Absolutely. I
Okay,
didn't bring
now
up
what
any
else
of
do you
the
wanna
other
say?
stuff. I
Okay,
wanna know
so-
that.
So
I want
that,
you to know that.
so that being said, okay, again, I said that I think that you have everyone on board wanting you to get this facility done, but we want it safe. And in order to get it safe, you're gonna suppress it, right? You said it takes 3 months. You said it takes 3 months to suppress it. What if we give you a conditional special land use for 6 months to give you time to suppress it, but you can't have any business going on until it's suppressed?
What?
You can't run a business in there until it's a safe building and suppressed.
So what would be the advantage to a special land use if I couldn't run any business in there?
You can run your business as soon as you get it suppressed. We would revoke it. If you
So,
couldn't
and then
do it
come
in a
back for
time-
the special land
No,
use at the end?
that's not what he's saying.
That's not what I'm
So,
saying.
that's okay, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
If it
I'm not
takes,
trying
all
to be
right,
adversarial.
here's what I think. If it takes 3 months for you to put the suppression in, we'll put you out for a 6-month special land use approval. If you don't get it suppressed in 6 months, it could be revoked. That's double the time you need to get it suppressed.
If it's if you get it suppressed,
Then you can
then
start
you
doing
open,
business.
and the special land
Once
use
once the
runs.
building official
Got
and
the
the
special land use
and
permit.
the chief come in and
So
approve it.
once, so this would be, okay, so if you were just to, this would be a temporary though, 6 month? Or
Only
would this
temporary if
be
you
a-
didn't do it.
So you're saying you're going to pass the special land use
Well,
with the
I'm just saying that's
condition
my
of
thought.
6 months? That would be wonderful, because that would mean that as soon as we got the
Right.
C of O, that we would be able
As
to.
soon as you got the C of O.
Right, if you get it
could
done
have
in
the-
3 months, you've
Now,
got a final in 3 months.
But it's just a
I-
push to
now-
get it done, because we do need you there. We
I
do want you
agree,
doing it.
and I think that that's an acceptable solution, but I also, you gotta realize that it was April, and I do have all this stuff.
Let's
I
get away from
understand.
that, because that's,
Well, because that 3 months is killing me. It's taking away revenue that could potentially be going towards this $250,000 project that we're,
what happens if we say to you, okay, go ahead, do your thing, or we didn't catch it, it wasn't surprised, anyway down the road, and somebody got hurt in there? Who do you think would be blamed? We
there
have to
has
do our
been
job.
operation in there, and there could still be continuing operation there for that 3 months. I'm not saying I mean, what about 4 weeks ago when it was operating? I mean,
nothing
I
happened.
understand
We
what
should
you're
be happy
saying,
about
but
that.
this is what I've been waiting for, is this time where now I can go, I mean, I have a guy Thursday that I'm going to sign the contract with, and he's gonna start installation as soon as their crew is ready.
Does
So
anybody
I-
wanna
We
make
need your
that
So
permit
I-
first, just to clarify
I
that.
just have a couple questions, though.
Go ahead.
I've talked to Scott, I've talked to the chief. I'm not fully clear on everything. I don't need to go into everything. I just want to move ahead so everybody can, advance ahead and we can all be in good shape. When you say that nothing can happen for 6 months, so you're
I
saying
didn't
that.
say 6 months, I said until the fire suppression's in and he gets occupancy.
Yeah, and let me clarify that. You said nothing can happen until the suppression system is in.
In
Are you
that
talking
part.
about just in that part of the building? So you're talking about the big assembly area?
Unless you want to eliminate everybody in the building, we could do that.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
not
it's up to
saying,
you guys.
I'm trying to get clarification because it wasn't specific. So you're saying the permits are going to the DEQ soon, it's a 6-week process. Scott, you're saying that you could begin, if you get a building permit. Dave, can you confirm that he could get a permit to start the interior work to move this thing along prior to getting, the water main permit from the DEQ, and then it's just a matter of having it connected when?
I'm not sure if that can happen that way unless it has to be approved with the Eagle first, but I think if they wanted to do that at their own risk, that would be fine.
Interior work could happen before anything outside of your building. You cannot start until Eagle issues an Act 399 permit.
Inside the wall, it's up to him.
At
So
our risk in case Eagle came back and said, yeah.
So if he wants to do several weeks of work waiting for Eagle, so then that way, that work is done, then that's his choice, but he could do that. In the meantime, the operations that are listed here outside of the assembly area to the front of the building toward Griswold can continue to operate as they are.
And there's a couple other little uses in there too.
Correct.
That the administrative committee allowed to keep going while this was getting resolved.
So the only thing, I'm in support of all of this, that's fine. It seems like everybody agrees to moving ahead this way. The only thing I'm asking, because it's fair to ask, is there another option that meets the fire code and the building code to occupy this building with a fire watch or some other temporary measure that's suitable so everyone feels that this is a safe building? Because I think everyone in this room agrees that this is a safety first situation and nobody wants there to be an injury or any kind of a problem as a result of this. It doesn't have to be answered tonight. All I'm saying is if the applicant and the building official and the fire chief can arrive at some temporary alternative over the next few months while this project is, then I would encourage you to have a discussion, and if it can be reached, then perhaps they're able to occupy the building with certain conditions. If it can't, then it can't. I'm just saying it has to meet a code, it has to meet requirements, it has to be a life safety, there has to be life safety protection, and everybody has to be on the same page. I haven't been in all these meetings. I don't want to go back through it right now. I'm just throwing that out there because I don't want a motion tonight to exclude or preclude him from coming up with another option and meeting with you guys next week that everybody's good with and it meets the intent of the fire code or the building code. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know how a motion would reflect that, but I would be in support of something like that. And again, if it can't and it's just completely unsafe without this, then it is.
I am not in support of having any occupancy until it meets the code.
I'm asking for it to meet the code, but sometimes the code has other alternatives. It's not just one answer. There could be 3 answers.
Because we got the guys in the room.
I'm not saying that that's the case here. I'm just saying that I don't want a motion, in my opinion, to preclude there from being another alternative that everybody's comfortable with that meets the code.
But we've already asked that, Sean.
I haven't been a part of those discussions, and that's what I said.
But we
I
have.
Okay,
To
I'm
both
just
our
saying
fire
it.
chief and our building official. We're on the same page.
Sure.
We're all on the same page.
Right.
If they could, we asked them if they could.
I'm just not up to speed on all that, so I'm just saying,
Yeah.
and I'm not here every day, so I don't know what's going on. I just wanted to say it because that was my thought.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Tom Duncan, 60440 11 Mile Road, South Lyon. Representing the owner of the building, Scott, myself, and my son Randall Duncan own the building, so what you're speaking of is somewhat has risk on our investment in the building. I'm speaking from that regard. But in terms of your suggestion, Mr. Dolan, you wouldn't ask any other party to go out and invest $250,000. And then after we get that done, you give them a special use permit. That's total
That's not what we're
risk.
saying.
That's what you were saying is,
We're saying-
you get the special land use if we suppress. And
No,
but it
you're
won't be-
gonna
it's
get the
conditioned
special
on
land
us-
use,
on
Mr.
us-
Duncan, you're gonna get the special land use okayed tonight. All you need to do is have it suppressed before you use it. You're getting it approved. Once you get it suppressed and you get it up to the fire code,
Well, it's up to the board.
the occupancy will come in and you'll get your C of O.
Well, that would be true under any case, wouldn't it? You have already said earlier in this agenda item that.
But I'm just
it's
saying
subject
that the
to
use of
building and
it
the
before
fire.
it gets fire suppressed,
Yeah,
we just don't want that because of safety.
but we need the assurance that it is approved tonight so that it
It will
can be automatically upon occupancy being given to the building, that it's transparent. There's no other negotiations, there's no other interpretation.
That's what we're saying.
And I think that's where he was confused, is you were asking whether there was something else you need to do to make sure. But I believe if you guys give us the special, or give me the special, sorry, it's not you, give me the special use tonight, then I would still need to have a C of O from building and fire.
But that would go to them, it wouldn't come here again.
Right, so I believe that process would be in place even if you guys pass the special land use without that being said, because they have to still let me be occupying the space to do business in there.
I think the supervisor's point was that when he was talking about the 6 months is sort of doubling the time that you think it's gonna take you. But if after 6 months you haven't done anything, then the township would revoke the special land.
And my question is why? Why would that be the case?
If we didn't suppress.
So, but why would it?
Because
why
you
would
wouldn't be
that
able to use it
Well,
for
and
anything?
do
If we never got a
you
CMO.
understand, regardless of what use you put in there ever, you have to have the fire suppression system. So it's not an investment, it's an investment you have to
Why-
make, period, to
why-
occupy the building.
Yes, but we may
Okay.
choose not to occupy the building and not spend the $250,000.
Well,
Because this is
that's always your choice.
a big impact on business strategy and
But that's,
productivity and profitability.
but that would be the reason for the revoking the special land use, so we couldn't use it for assembly after the fact.
So, well,
Or
you can't do anything
recreation, or-
illegal, would you?
Right, so it wouldn't affect the building being suppressed, and that's just my special land use. So I understand.
And I don't see that happening. It
I
sounds like
don't
you're gonna
either.
get
I
it
assume
done,
it's
and I
gonna
don't
get
see it
done in
happening.
3
Other than the
months,
C of O
frankly,
having
so
an
it'll be a
impact on the
non-issue.
neighborhood.
Sure. So.
Well, rather than say it'd be revoked in 6 months, that they have to be on an agenda in 6 months to explain why, and here, I wouldn't be in support of an automatic revocation.
Yeah,
I'd
they
like
would
to-
still have to come back.
Correct, so
Right.
that way if
Because
It'd be
they're
the
2
same
weeks
thing
away,
anyway.
we're not.
Right, you would
we're not-
give them a hearing before you
Right.
revoked it.
Which is hopefully gonna be a moot point, because like we're
Correct.
saying, in 3 or 4
That's
months.
what we're hoping for.
I mean,
And
construction,
I'm gonna
things
tell you
happen.
right now,
but-
if you're close to getting it finished, nobody's gonna revoke anything. If you stick all that time and money into the building and you can show that it's there,
John, 6
It's not
months
gonna
ago,
happen.
I would have taken you at your word and.
well, I'm
been-
sorry if you think
been
that
yes.
way.
No, not, I don't mean that, it's not your word, but I mean, just the process is sometimes gums up. You just never know what's gonna come down the pike, so.
You're obviously anxious to get your tenants in there, but you have to wait until you have to meet these certain criteria.
Well,
It's as simple as that.
I think,
we're on
I do
board, right?
understand, and I also
Yeah, I think
understand
I
that there are exceptions that are made. There's a very gigantic assembly area, same type of thing over in Brighton. They only suppress above their bleachers because that's their assembly area. There's things out there that can happen. That's what I was hoping to have span that from when they revoked my temporary to when I put my suppression in. And that's really what I've been after and what I've been trying to do, in coordination with building fire. And I just have been frustrated at it at every turn. So that's where I feel if I had known about this, it wouldn't be an issue right now. And now they're shutting me down because of something I'm not in control of.
But you
That's
really
the way it
wouldn't want
feels.
to keep going, would you? I mean, knowing that it could be a problem?
Absolutely. There has been operation in there. It is not a safe area. Come into the place, look at the exits. I've had,
You said it's not a safe area, but you didn't.
yes, it's been said that it's not a safe area, but it is a safe area. And there's tenants next to it. And, it's got doorways that are all well within, but it's not, yes, regulatory statutes say that because this room is over 10,000 square feet, that the entire building has to be suppressed. It's a rule that's been in there, why'd they put it that arbitrary number? I don't know. How unsafe is 15,000? That's not for me to determine. But I know that if I'm not gonna pack the place so it's unsafe, and there's doorways and lighting and all sorts of stuff. And I would be willing to comply with additional, things with the fire department to meet those requirements so that it was safe to operate during
Well,
that
I
time.
think we're on the same page, Scott. I think we are, and I think if we can get this thing moved forward, we can get this special land use approved, all you gotta do, get it suppressed, and you can be moving in there.
I'll make a motion to approve AP 18-69A, subject to the Planning Commission action to the McKenna letter of July 25th, the CES letter of July 26th, subject to there being no archery activities without amended approval, or firearms shooting activities without further approval. And that fire suppression and other public safety concerns of the building official and fire marshal be addressed to the satisfaction of those officials prior to occupancy, as we've talked about tonight. And I would say this is subject to everything being completed within 6 months.
You could give them more than that. What about 8 months?
Well, I was just gonna say, and then we'll have a review of a status review in 6 months.
If it doesn't happen.
If it's not done in 6 months, we'll have a status review to discuss where things are at. That's all. So I don't want to use the word revocation or whatever, just a status update. If it's not done in 6 months, we certainly, I'm really rambling on here, but we certainly hope it's 3 or 4 months. As an aside, I would encourage you to get, if you're so inclined, with the building official to see how you can begin your interior work while you're waiting for Eagle to give your permit, because you could save weeks of time potentially.
Yeah, we'll make whatever revisions we can.
Sure.
Does everybody understand that motion?
I don't know if I do.
Vaguely understand it, but I support it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Special.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, moving on. Update the status of 11 Mile Park.
Okay. In your packet is the overall layout of the park, as well as the highlighted version showing the existing floodplain that was part of the March board meeting. If you'd like, I can put them on the screen, but I think you've seen them a couple of times and really just wanted to give you an update and get some direction on how to proceed. Since the Spicer study was completed, basically, it turned out that we had to increase the size of the culverts underneath the pathway getting into the park, as well as the drive off of 11 Mile. So we updated our estimate. I think it adds about $230,000 to the project. Our estimate's conservative. I'm hoping it doesn't come in that, but they're massive concrete structures. And this is what it would need in order to meet the DEQ approval. We did resubmit the documents back to, I guess, Eagle, I'm using them interchangeably, but we did resubmit our floodplain and wetland permit back. We haven't received any comments yet, but this is our understanding that would meet the requirements, and we're just not really sure how to proceed from here. If you want us to focus only on phase 1 or on grading the entire park, and that's why I requested it to be on your agenda tonight.
Okay.
How much, I missed the total amount increase.
About $230,000 from the estimates in March that we went through.
And once these are done, what kind of effect will this floodplain have on the usability of the park?
Well, in the packet, there's the blue highlighted version that shows this is the current floodplain of the park overlaid with the park property. So you can see what would still be in it. There's one section of fields, and the Spicer Group hasn't completed their evaluation of the entire Novi Lion drain, so we don't know what's causing all this water to back up. If it's a simple culvert sizing issue or a couple of culverts, and I don't know when I'll receive that information. But we have met with the anonymous grant, and they've been pretty understanding of our obstacles. They do want monthly updates on the project, just to show that we are moving along, but they've been very cooperative. I just don't know at this point where I should go for this.
I don't know where you should go either. So everybody start talking.
Well, I'm looking at this, and again, I don't know what I seem to do to my laptop, but it takes forever to load. But I got it finally.
I lost my internet too.
Yeah.
Doesn't it depend pretty much on how much money we have?
Well, yes, and even just doing phase one is very expensive. I mean, you're over $2 million just to do phase one.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at how much, what is that, multi-purpose field?
Mhm.
I mean, if we have the rain that we had this year, I mean, how usable is that going to be? I don't know, a quarter of the other field?
One whole field.
Yeah,
You'd have, if you went beyond the phase one, you would be able to move forward with the amphitheater if you had donations, et cetera. The majority of the ball field to the north, I think would be usable. You'd have basketball courts, pickleball, sand volleyball, the play structure, obviously. It's really the two fields, or 1 1/3 of the fields that would not be usable.
But it's important to note too that that's a floodplain. That doesn't mean they're gonna be underwater consistently. Right?
No, but I
So we
have
might-
seen, I think it was last year, I saw water that far up into the property, driving Milford. So it does occur.
Yeah.
so with the total cost, I gotta flip back to do phase one.
Mhm.
Hang on, I gotta get there.
To do phase one, it would be, we give a range of 1.5 to 1.6 million, plus the approach on 11 Mile, which is 733,000 to 833. So you're in the $2 million range. Now, that's assuming you're bidding all of this work and there are no donations. We do plan on requesting some donations from some community partners, we'll call them.
Warren Buffett.
That we're, but we have no idea if they're going to actually come to the table.
So this is a lot of infrastructure to get to a play structure and a parking lot.
If you're only doing phase one, because yes,
Okay.
there's a lot of grading.
Didn't we have an offer on grading at one time?
No, not really.
Hey, Leslie, is that phase one include the pathway connection as
Yes.
well?
Mhm.
And that would be its own culvert crossing?
I think it did include the
No,
crossing.
it's included in the crossing for the path, but
Yeah, because that was one of our barriers for the DNR grants, was being able to have that crossing infrastructure in place, or at least in the phase one plan.
it's a tricky parcel. Mainly because of the floodplain. But even the intersection, getting pedestrians across the intersection, there's gonna be some utility reworking in there. And it's a large parcel. You're gonna be grading a lot of the parcel, storm sewer improvements, detention basin.
And I guess another one, and I don't know, you may be able to help me out, but I know you were working with the veterans on doing a fitness trail around there, which was not part of the cost estimate because they were gonna fund it themselves. But I was just curious if that, I know it's not on the plans because I don't think it's been developed that far, but I know it's something.
They seem to be pretty confident that they could do that. That was gonna be one of my questions back to Leslie, I guess, was how significantly would that alter things, since, I mean, we're basically leveling most of the site, so I don't think there would be a significant impact to
To
the,
go into the
to
woods?
the all phases develop, not in the woods, this
Oh.
is just around the, well, I can't really call it upland, because it's not, the developable portion of the site. Basically, it would circle the multipurpose fields in the parking lot.
I guess it just depends what they're doing. I mean, are they just gonna install like those little fitness things?
Well, we
as
do
you-
the benches, but then they were talking about just like a standard, I don't know if it would be full 10 or maybe just a 5-foot asphalt
I don't know, we'll meet
pathway,
with them.
but
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it.
Really, we've been working on this. Yeah,
that was just a possible question into like, does that make an issue into if we were to choose to do not just phase one, would it, would that delay or
Yes.
increase?
It would delay it. phase one is pretty much parking lot, pond, pathway getting into the park and the play structure. It's really just the middle.
So if we did
It's
just
all the
phase one,
infrastructure.
would that
Yeah.
still involve,
You
though,
don't see
doing
anything.
the whole site grading? Or
There it is.
if we're saying the phase one only option, is that just grading the phase one area and leave the rest of it for a second round of grading?
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
that's what I was
Because on
missing,
the
I
plan,
guess.
it looks really small, but there's really a significant
it's
amount
a
of
big site,
acreage
yeah.
that would have to be graded, so if you're not gonna plant seed and turn it into fields, why do it now?
I
Okay.
kind of hate to, sorry.
So what are you're looking for a path forward, basically, if you want to
Yes,
have
I
a
am.
pun there.
How would you like?
So
me
we're
to
looking at
proceed?
$2.5 million that we would have to fund the first phase of this thing. Is that correct? About $2.5
Probably
million?
2.25 to 2.5, yes.
Okay, so folks, that's what we gotta think about. You guys wanna put that much money into phase one? I mean, I think that's what Leslie's asking.
Or if you wanna
to
do
go
the whole
forward.
thing, or if you don't wanna do anything. I just need to, we're at the point where we're gonna be getting easements modified from 6 Rivers. We're in for a floodplain permit, which lasts for 5 years, so that's good. But I just don't know how far to keep going on this without getting direction from the board, as far as even, in-kind donations, which we've been working on a little bit behind the scenes, but we don't have any committed funds.
But by the looks of this, is if we did 1 and 2, we're talking $5 million.
Well, you wouldn't add 1 and 2. Oh wait, yeah, you would.
2 and 3, or
Yeah,
and
don't add
3
2 and 3.
includes 2.
It's 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's right, you wouldn't add
But
one,
you're probably
because that's
close
getting
to, you're
finished.
probably in the $3 million range to do the
Still
whole
at 4
park.
million.
You're over 3, I think.
I'd say with change orders 4,
Well,
easily.
but this doesn't include a pavilion and the amphitheater either. This is just
We're back to
ground.
5.
So, but this
So
is why.
Do we even have that kind of cash to do this?
I thought we had budgeted $500,000. Honestly.
For phase one?
I think
For
that's
phase
over
one or
here.
something
That'll
like
get you
that.
half
Does
of
that,
the driveway.
We did, $500,000.
I think that's what it was.
I mean, the water changes boosted the costs by, what, 230,000, right? So I guess my concern is partially, as we keep going down this road, do you foresee any other obstacles that are gonna add even more costs that potentially threaten the viability of the project?
That's a
Well, I
trick
think
bag.
it's.
I know it's a big,
Yeah,
just-
money. That's what I think. And costs don't go down, it seems like, unless you have a massive recession.
But that's
and
why,
then
when
go-
you said 3 million, I said 4 million. That's exactly what I
Right.
was talking about.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
gotta
because it
get
doesn't
ready for
include
it.
the amphitheater or the pavilion.
All right, so what do we want to do?
You can put a lot of pathway all over the township for $4 million.
That's, yeah, it's a cost benefit. Where is this the best use for those funds is,
I don't know, I mean, not everybody wants this kind of recreation. And we still can't get many people here. I mean, this is tough. I mean, we accepted a gracious donation for an incredible play structure, which is nice, but it would be hard to say that for a few $100,000 contribution, which is huge, that we're gonna spend another, yeah, $4 million, $5 million. I don't know what it is. That's,
Can the play structure
you know,
come up here? This is
that's,
where we need it.
I was just gonna say, is could we like,
Yeah.
could you
Well,
guys
Brian,
table
what do you
this
think?
for a month? Ask the donor if they'd be willing to do this in light of the massively increased costs.
but I think we could move it past.
Tamara Ward was sitting in that front, yeah, no, I'm not pointing at a ghost, I'm saying Tamara Ward sat in that front row a few months ago and suggested we put the play structure by Abbey Park. Please tell me someone else remembers.
Yeah, no,
that.
it was,
But it's not a park over
It
there,
was-
and I worry
There's no
that.
park and there's no place to park.
The future
Well, yeah.
library.
Tamara and Jay were here and they were bringing up the question of viability of this site versus
Right.
moving the plans to another site, which I know we have a lot of sunk costs in the development of this parcel in terms of engineering work, but I wonder where does that balance shift in what we keep adding?
I'm just saying that, I don't know how much property up here is even, would support a play structure? Like, do we have,
It would just have to go over by the ball diamonds. There's room for it over there.
Yeah.
That'd be the best place for it.
Right.
There's parking, it's flat, there's a pavilion to use right
well,
there.
but then it eliminates all of the, I mean, that dumps the,
Just parking.
well, it puts all of our recreation, all of our play structures in one spot, I mean, not really meeting the
How about we
needs.
build Safety Town, which I've wanted to do for.
I think we should.
If we build Safety Town, then maybe they would consider putting the play structure in the, I mean, we have a nice plan.
Well, I don't know.
And
if
it's
we-
up by the fire station, it's by our park.
I think
We
that
could
makes more
use it in-
sense.
I mean,
I think that's
I presented, well, not to this board, but I presented that
You got bathrooms there.
a while ago. You got the bathrooms. It would
Pavilion.
provide a place for the kids to learn the safety. It would provide, maybe the fire department could use it for trick or treating to give them more space, so they're not all in that one building, because they could actually use the buildings. You know, the little structures, they could use that area. You can use it for, Easter egg bunny. I mean, we could do a lot of things if we built Safety Town, and I think that's been a big project of mine.
I just can't see with all the other needs we have, infrastructure-wise, pathway-wise, spending $4 million here for just a handful of things.
Well, it's hard when we went
We have
down
to
this
get
path
some-
with the
they
best of
already gave us
intentions,
money.
we had a donated parcel and we have
They don't
donated
agree.
Play structure, yeah.
Yeah.
play structure, but at some point, like, it's just, we're trying to perhaps make something happen that just isn't using our resources all that wisely. I mean, this is township tax dollars, and to keep on, $4 million, $5 million, to Sean's point and then to Patty's point, is there something that is more universally needed within the community where we could justify that kind of expense? I mean,
I would love to ask the question between this month and next month of the grantees on what would be an acceptable alternative site, to see if, and I mean, hopefully they understand that while we are very, very appreciative of their contribution, it's tough to spend $4 million to get a few $100,000. I mean,
But there's an area right now that could be used.
Right.
for that,
right,
With very little prep work.
right, which I think is not too far from here.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts on that, Brian? You've dealt with them more than
No.
anyone.
that way, yeah.
That way.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the direction that the board is
I know.
leaning, then it's an honest conversation we're gonna have to have with them, so I have no problem asking them to come
Well,
in
it's-
and
yeah,
discuss that.
Leslie and I and Brian have been meeting with
Yeah.
the donor, and, but I will tell you at the very beginning, they really like this spot for multiple reasons. They personally pass it every day, it's in the middle of the township, it was a new project up and coming. Have we ever mentioned to them about another spot? No, we haven't. So we, honestly, how do we answer that to you, to this board, when we haven't asked? But there were specific reasons, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there were specific reasons why they were excited and they wanted to donate that.
I mean, at
Just,
this,
and they might be very willing to do that, I'm just
Yeah.
telling you, those are the reasons they liked this, and they pick and choose what they wanna give their money
sure, I mean,
to,
at this
so.
point, when you're looking at these dollars, I mean, we could go buy a piece of property on it and,
Yeah. No
and
question.
put this thing in
No
without
question.
all these other, I mean, this is one of the it's probably why the property was donated to us, because the person who did it knew that it was cost prohibitive. So while we're not gonna complain about having property in open space, it may need to be used for something different. I mean, I just don't.
Maybe we should put this project on hold for at least a month, maybe talk to the donors, maybe find out what their thoughts are,
Brian and Leslie.
and then just bring this back and talk about it at the next meeting.
I mean, if they want us to look at some other options, I think we'd be open-minded, but
So that you're talking about the land that would be next to the ball diamonds where they, for some time, we were talking about a football field, right? In that area to do Safety Town
The
and.
football field is
Safety
further
Town.
to the north,
Yeah, Safety
northwest.
Town is right
It's-
next to the,
Fire?
when you pull into the fire,
Yeah.
the,
It'll be right
the
there.
regular parking lot.
We know what the
There's a
footprint is.
whole, I have the plan in my office.
Okay.
What about that area where we cut all those trees down like 5 years ago on the other side of the?
Why don't we talk about?
We had to
this
cut those
September?
bad boys down,
It's down to item G.
so it seems like we should maybe look at that area too. I don't know, that's
Yeah,
accessible
the trees
off
are
the path,
cleared.
right? Trees are already cleared.
Last comment I have is I brought the service radii map up from the recent Parks and Rec master plan because I wanted to illustrate without a facility in the center of the township, there is nothing.
No.
There's nothing. The schools are what we have for an actual acreage parcel to recreate on. So that's something to keep in mind too.
What, Brian, what is the amount the trust fund grant would give for a park development? What's the percentage? Is it 80%?
It's capped.
It's capped, that's the problem, right?
It's a capped number.
Not enough money.
There are additional portions, though, that are suitable for acquisition that we couldn't use for development.
Correct.
Right.
We
So
we
there's
haven't looked at the
potentially
acquisition. That's a good point.
other routes.
Yeah.
Right, acquisition are typically 100% funded, yeah.
Let's do that. Let's just go ahead and put this on hold for a month. In the meantime, we'll try to get a
So do you
hold
want
of.
to table?
Can I
Make a
ask
motion
one
to-
teensy question? Sorry.
You better hurry, once
I
it's
don't know,
tabled,
just-
we'll
I don't-
allow
So if you
conversation.
said teensy, I guess
Just,
I'll give you.
is there any problem we would run into with all of the funds that have been set aside for this park from PD contributions being used towards a similar purpose, since they may have said 11 Mile Park?
Yes,
But we're not
Like-
calling it a done deal yet.
Right.
We're trying to figure it
Okay.
out, so.
they
This is a
have to be
big thing to
amended.
chew, and I think we're gonna need the time.
Make a motion to table further discussion on the 11 Mile Park until the September meeting.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on. Full-time fire department staffing proposal. Ken, this is you.
I did put together a handout before the meeting, trying to get an update regarding the FEMA Safer Grant. So is it okay if I just hand each of you a copy of this?
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm basically going to just read what I just presented to you, just so everyone else knows what the proposal is. Again, we didn't want to jump the gun without hearing from FEMA and jeopardizing the Safer Grant by saying we're taking any action tonight as far as hiring. But I did want to, again, recognize the full-time staffing committee with John Dolan, John Hicks, Michelle Cash, Bob Martin, and Doug Berry and Brian Holzheimer from my fire department. So the meeting, or this group, culminated with a workshop last week with all of you, and a separate meeting with a member that couldn't make it. But the encouragement was to move forward. And so what I would like to suggest tonight is the process continuation by establishing the eligibility list to fulfill the four full-time positions. I put in a proposed cutoff date a month away, like on Friday, September 6th, but that is flexible. And I also put in there that the applications will be sent to Township Clerk Michelle Cash. So that would be the first proposal, would be just to go ahead and get the application period open. So if you look at that second page, that's a draft of what would be going out there on Facebook, our advertising, our website, and get the information out there. The second part was to look at an interview panel of 3 outside officers for up to 3 days of interviews. And again, I don't know what the going rate is. I know that there's been a daily stipend of $100 or $200 to, this is going to be a little bit more in depth than just grabbing a local fire chief or officer, because it could be, I'm projecting maybe up to 24 interviews for the 4 spots. And so looking at a realistic 8 per day, 3 days of interviews, that this is just kind of I'm throwing it out there for consideration, that I would look at just a total $500 stipend per panel member. Some of them, if we can get them from a department that will just come and give up 3 days, then that'd be great. And then finally, we talked about it last week as far as for the captain's test, that's going to take 30 days from the time that it gets approved to sit down with the assessors. And this is making it a assessment center, that we're holding the captains to a higher standard. And so we want to bring in the objective assessors, and that if we get it down to 5 candidates, then that would be $8,000 for the day. And that's the third part of the proposal. So that's kind of where we're at.
Chief, I have a question.
Sure.
On item 3, it says the proposal from MCO for $8,000 and hiring up to 2 full-time captains. But then on the next page, it says that applicants need to create a profile with MCO for all. So that's 2 separate, both of those items are for MCO, but there's 2 separate components?
No, and it's a good point. So this advertisement would be just for firefighters. So the firefighters are going to go through, it's pretty standard nowadays that you take the written test, it's not on the burden of this township or city, and they register with MCO or another testing body like Western Wayne, and they pay for their own test. So this is a different thing. This written test is no charge to the township for the firefighters. They're already going to come here. We've already signed up with MCO, and we set in our criteria, and they give us a list of here's 75 people that qualify for your department. And then how do we want to narrow it down from there? How do we want to band the candidates together?
And how much, I know that you said the township would not be paying for that, but how much is that to cost?
To take the written test?
Yes.
I believe it's $75.
Oh, okay.
It's in that range, somewhere in there.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like a couple $100 or if it's,
No, and I'm sorry to interrupt, the other part of that is they also have to bring with us the physical agility test, and that's either the CPAT or the OPAT. And again, I think it's in that ballpark. It may be a little bit more in the 100, 150 range, but pretty comparable.
and then, I know that the cutoff you were looking for was 80% on the score. What if you only get like, I mean, what if you don't get enough applicants at the 80%? Do you have a range then, like, that you would want to drop down to?
Well, I think it's a fair score, and I look at what other communities are doing. Harrison Township, as a matter of fact, just posted their job requirements, their minimum score. It's also, you have to be a paramedic and you need an 85% minimum on the YEMCO score. So I really don't want to lower our standards, you know, and I believe we have a really good pool. If you look at that 80%, we can check the box, 80% and higher, and we're still going to get numerous applicants, dozens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, please?
No?
Okay. Any other questions? Does anybody have any questions for Chief?
No, I think we've been pushing to add lots of equipment and upgrade a lot of our facilities and apparatus, and I think this is the next step. We're growing, and we need to take the step to cut response times, and this is the way to do it, beef up staff, so I support it.
Okay, what are you looking for? What do you want us to go ahead and,
If I can go ahead and start advertising for
Okay.
the full-time firefighter positions, and I don't know if where you're at with the stipend proposal, I don't know if that's fair or unfair. It was just a shot in the dark.
I think it's
I
fair
think
for
it is
somebody
too.
to give up
You gotta
their
do it.
entire day,
Yeah.
yeah. Or a few
We
days.
want good,
I
we
mean,
want good
3 days,
people
he said.
Right.
involved.
Yeah.
Right.
somebody want to make a motion? to
So
move
I'll
this
make a
forward?
motion to approve the full-time staffing proposal that was presented by our fire chief, Ken Van Sparentek, with items 1, 2, and 3 being approved.
I'll support.
All right, we have a motion and support.
Oh, yeah, Sean should do it.
Oh, well, you can.
That's all right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Really appreciate it.
And thanks for taking the time to meet with me. I was out of town when, I'm that person that you, but I was out of town when the
Come on,
special meeting
try and
happened,
do
so
it.
I appreciate you driving to meet me to go over all this.
And I gave you the full, long version that they got
I
as
did,
well,
I
so.
fell asleep twice, but it was just because I was tired, it wasn't because it was boring.
Yeah, well, let's go with
No, but
that.
thank you, I appreciate it, in all seriousness.
Okay, we're going to move on to the replacement of the furnace and the AC system at Fire Station 1. And if any of you have ever been in that training room and listened to that, you'll know why.
I'll make a motion to approve the replacement of furnace and AC system for Station 1 training room.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
That was hard. That was a
Opposed?
hard one.
Love that. All right. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you, Ken. All right, moving on to the watershed sign installation to comply with the township MS4 permit, and this has been a noose around my neck since I
Yes.
freaking started here.
This
and I'm
has to
not
get
kidding you.
done.
And Leslie can explain what it means, but 4 years before I was here, the signs were here.
I'll make a motion to approve the watershed signs as required by the township's MS4 permit.
Support.
Oh, I have actually a couple of questions on some of the
Nope.
signing on
Subject to
it.
Chris's questions.
Sorry. No, nothing against it, but I just wanted to, like, just looking at the map, are we doing one at the Yerkes Drain on Griswold?
Yeah, there's 26 signs that will be installed, so wherever you see the little sign, not all of them are labeled.
Okay, not all of them are labeled.
Yeah, there's a couple that don't have the labels on them, but yeah, there's 26 signs required.
And they will be named after the drains, not the common name, like the Davis Creek, for instance, at
No, they
Pontiac
will be
Trail.
there.
Whatever the official name is, is one of them wrong?
Well, it says, you know, it says Novi Line Drain at the Davis Creek, but it is the Novi Line Drain, but it's
Yeah.
called the Davis Creek. I was just curious what the name was
We
gonna
already
be on the
have the
sign.
signs.
Well, whatever the sign says, that's what
Yeah.
I'll put up.
Whatever it's already out
They
there.
already have and sent them.
Okay.
Because I haven't
You
seen
may
them in
not be able to
6
read them
months.
by now.
Okay.
They're wrapped in papers.
That's been saying.
I would just add, with a price not to exceed $6,500 for
Thank
the
you.
CES letter
I'll
dated July
re-support
25th.
that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item K. Can we do that right now?
Yeah, you sure you can.
Sounds nice.
Let me first tell what
Go
it
ahead.
is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
I just have a question.
This is to move the November 6th Board of Trustees meeting to Thursday, November 7th, due to the November election.
Well,
Wait a
yeah, I
minute.
just want to make sure, though, we can move it to the 6th, which is Wednesday after. I would prefer Thursday, the 7th, but will everybody be able to make the 7th?
I probably won't, but
That's what I figured.
About the
So
6th.
can you make Wednesday, the 6th?
I can, but I don't have to be, I mean, if it works better for you.
Well, no, I mean. you
I don't know
it
if I
is
can. I have a
it
meeting
is
scheduled that night, but I don't know.
On Thursday.
I
Okay.
will, yeah, Thursday.
So I would suggest that we make it for the 5th.
If you're okay with that, I mean, I
Yeah.
know you're
I
gonna
mean,
be.
I'd rather have a.
Sixth.
The 6th is the
The
Wednesday.
6th, yes, the Wednesday. I'd rather have a
So
full
make it the
board
6th?
than
Be here, then.
have people miss.
I potentially could have a conflict with the Thursday, so Wednesday would be better.
Okay,
Okay,
great, let's
so
do
the
that.
6th works for you,
I think that'd
too.
be better for everybody then, okay.
Okay, Lisa, make that motion.
I'll make a motion to approve to move the November 5th, 2019 Board of Trustee meeting to Wednesday, November 6th, 2019, due to a November election.
Oh,
We were in Vegas that week. I
Mhm.
had you covered on the 4th, but then, I'm
Oh.
actually gonna be in Vegas. Robin was gonna be here on the 4th, but then the rest of the week, we've got shoots every day in Vegas that week.
So we may not get it televised?
Yeah.
What about the following week?
I have to figure it out.
I
Forgot
forgot,
about you guys.
I forgot
just
about you
count on
too.
you guys being here all the time. Sorry about that.
You should be revolving around our schedule. It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
you're not required by law to be televised.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, I mean, we have some time to figure it out, but I mean,
We
worst
do.
case scenario.
Okay, well, see what you can do for us, and then if we have to move it, we have to move it. Okay. Saturday afternoon on.
Saturday breakfast.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
did we have a support on that?
Uh,
Lisa made the
so
motion.
Lisa
Did-
and-
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving to the approval of the contract between Oakland County Equalization and the Charter of Township of Lyon, and this is for our assessing. They usually go 3 years on these, and it's up this year. And Sean and I had a few conversations, and I believe that it's about a 3%.
Yeah, it's all right here on
yeah.
6.
And
Well, it
it's,
goes up for multiple reasons. It goes up because it's parcel count.
Right, and I had just asked for the
Per
total
person.
sum.
And I think I
was
got
all
it to
but
you
twice.
guys.
And I think you figured it out.
Yeah, I did.
And it's like, what, 147,000 for the
I
first
think it's
year?
100, and it'll be 140, yeah, something like that.
For the first year, 150, it goes up a few thousand every year.
About
It's
3%.
standard, I just was,
Yeah,
yeah,
about
thank you for
3%.
answering that, I
Actually, I
appreciate it.
thought the increases were fairly minimal,
They
like
were.
They're very
1%
minimal.
or something.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Not
small.
3% was one,
But,
yeah.
but it does go up per parcel,
Mhm.
so the growth is what.
So that's our contract, and they do a wonderful job for us, just so everyone knows. They do a
They are.
wonderful job. They spend a lot of time here, and they're pretty thorough. So it's a pretty good price. If you see the room full of people, like, there's always in here, it's crazy.
Okay,
They
I'll
have a
make a
lot of
motion
assessors.
to approve the contract between Oakland County Equalization and the Charter Township of Lyon for the years beginning July 2019 through July 1st, 2022.
I'll support.
Okay? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on.
Pathway M.
Down to the pathway, 11 mile.
Well, maybe I should just explain it. Why don't I start with explaining it? We need the map.
I can't wait. For the same reason, work with us.
Okay, this is the section of the 11-mile path.
Very clearly legible and easy to read.
This is the eastern section right across from Belladonna. Some of you may have driven by, it's under construction right now. The contractor has excavated out the area of the path. But with all the rain that we've been having, the subbase is pretty wet. And I expect them to do their proof roll this week, but it's very possible that some undercuts on this section will be necessary. And what that means is when they do the proof roll and they bring in the heavy equipment, if the ground is soft, they'll have to excavate out like sections of it and put a heavier duty aggregate and compact it. Otherwise, your path will not have compaction and it'll end up wavy. It'll
So it'll be
sink.
more fun.
Pardon?
It'll be more fun.
It's one way to look at it. So I brought this to the full-time officials' attention today. Typically, during the middle of construction projects, we don't always have the opportunity to bring potential change orders to your attention, but wanted to bring this up to you because if this entire section, for example, needed a foot replaced or a foot undercut, which I'm hoping it does not, that would be $10,000 added to the cost of the project. Another delay in this is that we encountered a potential septic failure that was not a cause of not a result of construction, but we've kind of had to notify the health department, the property owner. We're proceeding regardless of that, but I need to work with the contractor and really get the project back on schedule because now it's affecting the residents that live there and their yards have been torn up all summer.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing this up to you. The contractors provided me a price for the undercut if necessary. I just don't know exactly what it would be until we get into the field and get into the work.
So basically, Leslie, if the whole thing needed to be undercut and aggregate, we'd be looking at around $10,000.
Right.
Okay, so if we say, okay, let's go ahead, we're in this thing now. I mean, it's no
I know.
getting out.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
So why don't we just give her the option for a change order of not to exceed
Yeah, and
10,000?
10,000 isn't actually that
Not
that
when you're
much.
paying
I was
that
expecting
much.
a bigger number than that.
Well,
when you were
I mean, I'm
talking
just
about
throwing
it.
that out as,
So-
I have a unit price, we can
Right.
measure the units. I'm just saying if it was a foot deep across this whole 600 feet, it'd be $10,000.
You'll have an inspector on site for the approval.
Absolutely.
So what would you be comfortable with? Would you be comfortable with 15,000 not to exceed, or 10?
If you want to cap it, then I would say 15,000
Well,
because
I
I
don't
can't
want to
really
get in the middle
stop.
of this and be hung up
Have
again.
to-
I'm not even gonna know honestly until the inspector comes back and gives me his report and like, this is what we had to do.
I
know
mean, there's
this
no
is-
turning back right now, so
Well,
let's,
John, how much can you spend without board approval?
5,000.
So can we say a change order of, not to exceed $15,000? And, if that doesn't cover it, use discretion for up to,
But that's fine.
administrative discretion?
Okay.
but I think 15 should
Oh,
cover it.
it should. I'm
Easily.
just, believe me, I'm hoping it's a lot less than that. I don't know. And with it raining every week, these torrential downpours, we haven't had the opportunity, honestly, for it just to dry out like it's needed to. And then this whole situation, this leaky septic is impacting our construction. It's just kind of a mess.
Well, I think that we should probably go ahead and approve that. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve a change order of, not to exceed $15,000 for the 11-mile pathway.
Support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks very much. We're moving on to our closed session.
I'll make two motions. The first is move into closed session to discuss attorney-client privilege communication in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268H.
A second?
Could we please have a roll call vote for that?
John Dolphin.
Yes.
Sean O'Neill.
Yes.
Lisa Blades.
Yes.
John Hicks.
Yes.
Christopher Enlow.
Yes.
Michelle Cass.
Yes.
Patricia Cargo.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to move into closed session to discuss pending litigation, Cambridge of Lyon LLC versus Charter Township of White Lake, Oakland Circuit.
Charter Township.
Lion.
Sorry,
Not White Lake.
let me start over. Spend some extra time there. Make a motion that we move into a closed session to discuss pending litigation. Thank you guys again. Cambridge of Lyon LLC versus Charter Township of Lyon, Oakland Circuit Court Case number 2018-168390CZ in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268E, as an open meeting would have a detrimental financial effect on litigation or settlement position of the township.
Second?
All right, would you please call this by roll?
Christopher Enlow.
Yes.
John Hicks.
Yes.
Patricia Cargo.
Yes.
Lisa Blades.
Yes.
Sean O'Neill.
Yes.
Michelle Cass.
Yes.
John Dolphin.
Yes.
And I guess I would note for the record that we will be returning to open session following the closed sessions.
Okay, we will be returning.
I'll be back.